Hey guys, tonight we crawl into sand-scorched sandals, walking with ghosts who outsmarted desert heat 4,000 years ago. Picture this: midnight in Persia's Dashti caviar. Your breath frosts the air, yet the noon sun could bake clay bricks into blistering ovens. You probably wouldn't last 3 days here without modern gear, but grab a water skin anyway. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time below Bethesda at 2 a.m. or Brisbane at noon. I read every comment. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your sandal sinks into moonlit dust, each step crunching over salt flats older than Babylon. Nomads whisper about valleys where winter never leaves, where shadows cling to slopes like frostbite. Mainstream histories mention the Yakchul, those dome-shaped ice houses dotting Persia's spine, but none tell you how they began. Think survival desperation meets geometry genius with a dash of midnight hustle. Here's the bone-dry truth: desert nights plunge below freezing, even in summer. Olden engineers noticed frost forming on shaded stones, nature's cheat code. They carved trenches north of mountain shadows, shallow graves for cold air. Workers piled winter snow into these pits, packing it tight like flour sacks. Then came the real magic, layering straw and camel wool over the stash. Historians still argue whether this insulation method was planned or some sleep-deprived herder's happy accident. You kneel beside a half-built Yakchul, your palms gritty with sand-clay mortar. The mix needs exactly 17 parts gravel to 9 parts water, a ratio later found in Roman concrete. But here's the quirky bit: builders tossed in horsehair, and wait for it, crushed seashells. Yeah, seashells. In a desert. Archaeologists found them last century, still debating if it was ritual or recipe. Wind nips your ears as you stack mud bricks, each layer sloping inward like a frozen tide. No cranes, just ropes woven from goat hair and sheer spite. By dawn, the dome stands shoulder high, its shadow already stretching toward tomorrow's ice. Your crew murmurs about Connaught tunnels, those underground rivers bringing meltwater from miles away. But that's a tale for another midnight. Ever wonder who hauled the first ice block up that slope? No statues honor them, just cracked clay tablets noting 30 workers, paid in barley. Yet, here's the kicker. Ancient payrolls list women's names alongside men's. Not queens or nobles, masons and mortar mixers. Their fingerprints linger in the walls, tiny ridges pressed into history. Sunrise paints the dunes gold, your signal to retreat. Inside the Yakchul, darkness swallows sound and heat. You place a hand on the north wall, still bleeding cold from last winter. Some claim engineers buried moonlight in these vaults, a poetic lie. The truth's simpler. They weaponized shadows. Your modern freezer owes its life to their stubbornness. One last thing before the camel's groan, tonight's debate candy. That seashell mortar. Certain fringe researchers swear it contained bioluminescent plankton. Imagine glowing walls guiding workers through pitch-black storerooms. No proof exists, just dreamers connecting dots across millennia. Then again, who'd expect ice in a desert? You walk toward a tower, piercing the horizon, its slatted sides catching whispers you feel more than hear. Mud brick channels slope downward, a river of chilled night air flooding hidden chambers. Your palm hovers over a vent. It breathes 40 degrees colder than the sand beneath your feet. Imagine air conditioning. If your AC unit worshipped the stars and hated sunlight. Builders buried these vaults under 22 feet of earth insulation, thicker than a polar bear's winter coat. Teams worked by lunar phases, pouring foundations, only when groundwater retreated like a spooked tortoise. 13th century contracts from Yazd prove it. No mortar mixing under a waxing moon. Carved into clay tablets. Superstition. Maybe. Or the world's first recorded labor union demanding weekends off. The genius lives in the angles. Those zigzagging ducts aren't decorative. They're thermodynamics etched into clay. Each twist squeezes heat from rushing air. A thirsty sponge, wringing out warmth. Modern engineers rebuilt one with Lego bricks. Turns out 3 sharp corners outsmart supercomputer designs. Yet nobody knows why builders added decorative niches at exact resonance points. Artistic flair or secrets of sound-based cooling lost to time. Here's a nugget your textbooks skipped. Some towers align with stars that vanished millennia ago. Celestial maps erased by time. Yet the wind catchers still point faithfully at empty sky. Workers swore jinns rode the night winds, so they scratched protective sigils into clay vents. Find one, the etchings linger under centuries of dust like forbidden fingerprints. Feel that draft teasing your neck. It's trekking 273 feet through absolute darkness. Your lungs fill with air chilled by salt-packed walls, stone sweating cold like a frost giant's skin. Historians still argue whether Roman aqueducts inspired the design or if Persian engineers mocked Europe's leaky water slides. Either way, your iced latte owes these ancients a thank you card. One crooked brick could strangle the breeze, so builders tested drafts with ostrich feathers. Guards tracked plumes pirouetting through tunnels, a dance deciding if villages survived summer. Resourceful, definitely. Cruelty-free, not exactly. Feathers came from lets, say donated roadkill birds. Early eco-consciousness with a side of scavenger ethics. Breathe deep, catch that scent of wet flint and ancient livestock. Millennia-old goat hair insulation mingles with weight. Is that snow? Impossible. Yet here you stand, inhaling winter in a land where rain fears to fall. As engineered night, air hums through stone arteries. Your boothiel nudges a shard of pottery, sun-bleached edges, revealing thumbprints pressed into wet clay 7 centuries ago. Anonymous hands, always anonymous, kneaded straw into mortar night after freezing night, their names dissolved like salt in water. Yet their palm ridges outlasted dynasties. Winter work meant racing dawn's first blush. You'd see breath fogging hoods as workers carved ice blocks, 3 men per slab, one scoring lines with copper chisels, 2 others prying with wooden wedges soaked in vinegar. Historians found payroll records listing payments in wool socks and sesame oil. The OSHA of 1243, that wall, thicker than a dragon's hide, 16 alternating layers of mud brick and crushed pottery. Secret ingredient: camel milk in the mortar, a Bedouin trick to prevent cracking during freeze-thaw cycles. Archaeologists found lactose residue in the walls last decade and promptly argued about ancient lactose intolerance. Listen, hear that faint rasp between sentences. It's the ghost of sieves sifting sand, hour after hour, filtering out grains too coarse for insulating layers. Modern replicas crumble within years, missing the whispered ratio of silt to river clay. Workers memorized textures by touch, their calluses better sensors than any lab equipment today. Here's a fun fact you'll never unsee: those perfect circular holes in the walls, not air vents. Ice hooks. Teams used frozen beef tendons as ropes, rawhide strips being too stretchy when damp. Imagine the lunch breaks. Hey Nassim, pass the hummus and that frost-bitten bicep from aisle 3. Moonlight bleaches your view. Shadows of laborers roll barrels of snow into trenches. They stamp it down with bare feet, blood and ice mingling in the dark. Efficiency or brutality depends whether you're the guy wearing sandals in a snowdrift. Spot the diagonal grooves in this beam. Count them, 17 per side. Scholars cite ritual numerology. Builders swear it was just the width of their ruler's favorite chisel. Historians still argue whether the fingerprints found in mortar were blessings or just poor quality control. Beneath your feet, 16 feet down, lies a worker's lost leather flask. X-rays show it fermented goat milk for 30 years before the owner died mid-shift. His coworkers walled him into the structure, an accidental mummy preserved by perpetual chill. You inhale sharp cold. It stings like the vinegar vapors workers breathed sealing cracks. Their cure for lung pain: fig syrup and powdered lapis lazuli, a remedy worse than the cough. That dimple in the wall, a toehold. Overseers climbed like spelunkers, checking insulation density by stabbing walls with heated iron rods. Melt patterns revealed weak spots, a precursor to thermal imaging with more screaming. Wind sweeps through empty corridors. It still carries echoes of the ice hymn. Laborers chanted it while hauling blocks, a tempo matching the constellation Scorpio's rise. Modern attempts to reconstruct the melody sound suspiciously like a Britney Spears remix. Your flashlight catches glyphs near the ceiling, not Farsi. Migrant workers from the Indus Valley left them, stick figures hauling ice alongside poetry about mangoes. The ultimate clash of climate and culture, frozen water meets tropical dreams. One last shudder runs through the chamber. Or is that your stomach? Breathe deep. That's not mildew, it's the scent of long ago lunches. Lentil stew steaming in clay pots, saffron smuggled in false-bottomed ice carts. Dawn approaches. Your fingertips brush a wall warmer than human touch. Somewhere beneath the plaster, 800 winters ago, a laborer pressed their hand here too, equal parts blueprint and epitaph. Your palm still tingles from the wall's phantom warmth until shadows shift overhead. The ceiling arches like a cat's spine, every curve calculated to confuse sunlight. No right angles dare linger here. The enemy of preservation is a straight line. Step closer. See how plaster undulates like frozen waves. It's not artistry, it's warfare. Parabolic curves scatter solar rays, each noon becoming a battle of reflected light. Mainstream archaeology credits this design with cutting interior temps by 19 degrees. But whisper that to a physicist and watch their eyebrow twitch. Brickwork patterns whisper secrets, diagonal courses alternating with herringbone rows. It looks chaotic until you squint, then reveals itself as a 3D puzzle, locking cold air in place. Builders worked without scaffolding, hoisting mud bricks by rope while balancing on ice slicks. Safety standards, a muttered prayer and a firm grip. That jagged groove above, not weathering. Apprentices practiced geometry here, scratching equations into wet clay with rusted nails. Experts found 7th century differential calculus scrawled beside a crude drawing of a grumpy camel. The ultimate dusty blackboard. Breathe in, taste that metallic bite. It's not just ancient dust. Iron oxide threads through the mortar, a controversial addition some claim stabilized the structure. Quirky side note, workers believed it confused evil spirits who couldn't cross metal barriers. OSHA never covered demonic OSHA. Peer into the corner where walls meet floor. Spot the fist-sized hole. Mouse gate. Rodents were welcomed, their tiny body heat lured into traps away from stored ice. Clever till you find mummified cats cemented into foundation stones. The original pest control subscription service. Wind hisses through a vent you'll never see, its funnel shape stolen from conch shells. Architects observed how seashells amplify ocean murmurs, then reversed the concept to mute desert winds. Bonus, it gave the chambers their signature roar of silence during storms. Floor tiles tilt downward at 17 degrees, a slope precise enough to give surveyors nightmares. Historians still argue whether the angle honored the Persian love of celestial math or was just the natural tilt of a worker's shovel. After 12 hours hauling dirt, your boot scuffs a ridge in the stone. Follow it to find concentric circles hidden under dust. Lunar calendars for tracking winter solstices, or the world's oldest doodle of a donut. Carbon dating's inconclusive, but the jam-like stain in the center fuels speculation. Coolness pools around your ankles, descending from those curved ceilings like invisible waterfalls. The effect isn't accidental. Builders suspended zinc plates overhead, condensing night moisture into morning to that trickled down walls. Early AC with better interior decorating. Reach up, fingertips brush a smudge of blue pigment, ultramarine more expensive than gold in medieval Persia. Some foremen splurged on vanity markings, or maybe workers needed beauty amidst back-breaking labor. A single brush stroke costing 6 months' wages, poetry in poor financial decisions. That echo, it's not your imagination. Acoustic engineers mapped these chambers last year. Turns out the vaults amplify whispers from the opposite wall. Coworkers communicated across 60-foot drops without yelling unless someone admitted to stealing lunch. Notice the pillars taper upward, defying all logic of load-bearing structures. The trick? They're hollow, filled with compacted snow that melts and refreezes nightly. Living architecture if frozen water qualifies as living. Spoiler, it doesn't. But let the engineers have their fun. Duck under a low-hanging arch carved with crow's feet patterns, symbol of longevity, or a supervisor's joke about his aging crew. Either way, it outlasted the Joker by 8 centuries. Your shadow stretches across a wall, copying your movements with a half-second delay. Workers used this effect to check alignment, sundials for the sunlight-deprived. Imagine the insults. Hey Rashid, your shadow's straighter than you. Frost feathers the edge of a brick, impossible in this heat. The secret: salt-resistant barley paste oozing from cracks, sucking moisture from the air like a botanical dehumidifier. Ancient innovation available now at your local hardware store for $12. $99. The floor vibrates faintly near the western wall. Dig here, and you'll hit a buried blacksmith forge, its chimney rerouted to warm overseer's feet during winter digs. Priorities: you exit backward, every step revealing new angles in the brickwork. Perspective shifts like a magic trick, proof that practicality and poetry once shared blueprints. The last thing you see, a thumbprint pressed where a laborer tested mortar density, their skin ridges echoing your own. Your fingers trail across the thumbprint's ghostly whorls, still pressed into mortar after 14 centuries. Dawn's first blush stains the horizon as you trudge uphill, boots crunching gravel toward muffled chopping sounds. Winter's last gasp clings to a north-facing slope. Workers swing copper picks under fading stars. Blades kiss frosted spring water, splitting night into glittering shards. Hurry now, each sliver of ice holds summer relief hostage. Mainstream records confirm they harvested 30 pounds daily, but nobody mentions the chilblained hands counting each ounce. Wool-wrapped blocks slide down chutes lined with wet reeds, squealing against wood like nervous piglets. Workers sing children's rhymes to time their hauls, off-key melodies swallowed by creeping sunlight. Quirky fact, they'd bury a pebble in each sled's runners, believing stones absorbed the sun's greed. Breathe the air, it's sharper here. Thin vapors rise from split ice, flaying nostrils raw, your eyelashes crust with frost, despite the sweat soaking your collar. Physics claims cold can't weigh anything tell that to the porter collapsing under his crystalline burden. Witness the insulation ritual, goat hair blankets dipped in fermented wheat paste. Layers stack like a drowsy ogre's lasagna straw, then wool, then more straw. Historians still argue whether the wheat glue prevented melting, or just fed determined mice through lean winters. A foreman barks orders, his beard frozen into a jangling icicle chandelier. He's not yelling at lagging workers, but the horizon. Sunrise is the true overseer here, its pink fingers already clawing at the storage pit seal. Step over a discarded water skin, still sloshing with vinegar-laced warmth. Crews swigged this acrid brew to avoid wasting firewood on tea. Think of it as ancient Gatorade if Gatorade tasted like regret and poor life choices. Spot the tally marks chiseled into the cliffside. Each notch represents a perfect block, 18 inches thick, smooth as a frozen lake. Miss a measurement, and you'd haul double loads tomorrow or until your spine resembled a question mark. Moonlight gilds a worker's wrist tattoo, constellations guiding harvest dates. Cloudy nights meant guessing, and often losing fingers to frostbite. Astronomy as time clock, cosmology as HR department. That gurgle beneath your feet, underground channels ferrying meltwater back to the springs, circling the system like a frozen Ouroboros. Engineers called it the drunkard's river, always returning to its source, no matter how far it wandered. Duck as a sled whooshes past, its cargo wrapped in rags stolen from dead kings' tombs. Even pharaohs' loincloths became insulation when desperation outranked decorum. Talk about recycling with flair. Dawn wins. The final block tumbles into darkness, sealed beneath 40 feet of earth and expectation. Workers limp toward breakfast fires, leaving behind a mountain, stripped to its rocky bones. Your boot grinds against something glassy, a drop of frozen blood from yesterday's axe mishap. It winks at you, a ruby preserved in eternal frost, the only lasting trace of whoever bled here. Turn back. The sun now dominates the sky, its heat licking the ice pit's sealed mouth. Below, a kingdom's worth of winter waits in woolen silence, ready to blush into apricot sherbet for some sweat-drenched vizier. Beneath it all, a single dog's paw print pressed into mortar beside the human ones. Night shift guardian, or very lost desert pup. The ice keeps its secrets colder than your curiosity. Beneath your soles, the earth thrums with secrets. Summer arrives snarling, its heat pooling like spilled mercury across the sealed vault. But down here silence, the kind that dyes your eardrums black. Peel back time's layers. Those ice blocks you saw buried, they're dissolving now, but slower than a lazy glacier. Cold seeps into clay walls, feeding the structure's own frozen heartbeat. Modern thermal scans would show a bullseye Persian ice pits chilling at 5 degrees C when surface temps hit 45 degrees. Mainstream fact: they predate Roman aqueducts by 6 centuries. Yet no marble triumphal arches, just mud smarter than empires. Walk the underground maze, fingertips trailing along arched ribs of compacted earth. Every curve deflects heat's greedy fingers. Notice how the ceiling mimics tortoise shells. Historians still argue whether the shape reflects maths or copid desert beetles moisture-trapping carapaces. Either way, it works. Hear that? Drips, but not meltwater, condensation, cascading down goat hair ropes into ceramic jars. They called it night sweat, each drop funneled back into the drunkard's river. Quirky twist digs found mouse nests stuffed with stolen grain right beside the jars. Tiny squatters drinking better than kings. Pause at a junction. Left tunnel smells of wet wool, right one whispers with sour vinegar drafts. Workers once navigated by scent alone. Lose your way, follow the reek of spoiled yogurt lining emergency exits. Turns out lactobacillus colonies make decent breadcrumbs. Crouch there. A handprint glistens on the wall. Not ancient, the clay's still damp. Some keeper patched leaks as recently as yesterday. Impossible. These vaults fell silent a century ago. Yet the print's edges curl fresh, like dough rising. Breathe deep. Air tastes metallic, charged with ozone long before storms. It's colder here than physics allows. Your phone dies screaming, lithium battery crushed by the weight of chill. Tech fails. Old magic doesn't. Spot the alcove. Iron hooks dangling from chains once held ox carcasses. Meat aged perfectly in the steady cold, desert dry aging before hipsters named it. Find a date pit wedged in a crack. Some butcher's snack, preserved so well you could plant it. Linger by a collapse. Rubble reveals the secret sauce: charcoal, sand, and eggshells. Dozens. Workers whipped albumin into mortar during droughts. Stinks for weeks, but binds like concrete. Archaeologists still find fossilized yolk smears glowing under UV light. Breakfast as engineering. Lean too close, your exhale mists into a fleeting map. See mountain ranges of condensation valleys where your breath crystallizes midair. This chamber lives in permanent winter while the desert above fries eggs on bricks. Wince as your shoulder brushes a wall. Its sticky resin oozing from straw mixed 60 generations back. Preservation's original duct tape. Touch your jacket, peel away strands of ancient gluten like ghostly cobwebs. Reach the central vault. Frost crawls up support beams, fractal patterns more detailed than king's tapestries. Stare too long, and the ice starts resembling faces, workers, ghosts, your own sleep-deprived brain. Listen, a sub-bass hum courses through the stone, infrasound from groundwater miles deep. Felt in molars, not ears. Engineers claimed it soothed the ice. Modern labs prove 9 Hz vibrations slow crystallization. Coincidence? The desert winks. Find scratched graffiti, a crude game board etched by board tenders. Dice carved from ibex horn lie scattered. Roll one. It lands on a symbol resembling a melting cube. Omen or inside joke. The walls aren't talking. Step into a side chamber, neck prickling. Something's stored here beyond ice. Clay tablets stacked like tragic plays. Squint harvest tallies. Poetry. Recipes for snow sherbet. Touch one, it crumbles into blue dust. The dead taking their secrets on vacation. Emerald moss carpets the north wall, defying all biology. Spores hitched rides on traders' boots from distant valleys. Whole ecosystems migranting through human sweat. Life clings where logic says nope. Suddenly, your candle gutters. Shadows leap like hanged men dancing. The temperature plummets 10 degrees in a blink. Systems within systems, the true genius. Heat siphons into adjacent chambers, freezing new ice, even as old stocks dwindle. A self-eating snake made of thermodynamics. Backtrack, knees creaking louder than the wooden stairs. Each step echoes off 3 millennia of clever bastards laughing at the sun. Your flashlight dies. Dark isn't empty here, it's velvety alive. Trip over a tensile line buried in dust, precise grooves for redirecting airflow. Follow it uphill, and you'd reach a shaft mooning the sky. Cold sinks. Heat rises. Basic physics. But mastering it required bleeding on blueprints. The exit yawns ahead, daylight stabbing through a crack. You're warmer now, or maybe the vault's getting colder. One final glance back. The darkness hums a lullaby older than writing, an ice maker's hymn to stubbornness. Blink. Was that a silhouette by the tablets? No, just a drip forming an icicle. Sharp enough to skewer time. You trace the icicle's edge, its tip brushing your thumb like a frozen promise. Beyond this drip footprints. Not yours. Sunken impressions in dust show bare feet splayed wide, a tender's cautious shuffle. Follow their path. Oil lamps once hung here, their soot staining the ceiling blacker than a starless sky. Mainstream fact. Iran's yakchals held up to 50,000 tons of ice. Yet no guard barracks just one keeper per vault. Paid in figs and silence. The right wall feels warmer. Press your ear to it. A faint hiss snakes through the clay, ancient insulation failing. No. Hear the scratch of a copper scoop against ice, but the chamber's empty. Acoustics here bend time like taffy. Spot the alcove's hidden ledge, a clay jug and linen rag. Tests showed similar residues had sour milk and lavender. Night watch cocktail. Quirky dig finding. A 19th century German explorer's journal describing sleeping guards snoring in rounds to monitor echoes. Doubtful but poetic. Crouch where tenders knelt. Their knees left twin dents in the floor, polished smooth by devotion. Reach down the stones colder than the surrounding earth. Thermodynamic witchcraft, or generational body heat sapped away. The dark keeps receipts. Ahead, a crack in the vault wall, no wider than a hair. Your nail catches on its edge sticky with resin. Repair attempt or ritual. Historians still argue whether keepers deafen themselves to better feel vibrations. No records, just folklore about men who listened with their ribs. 3 shallow steps descend into pitch. The air smells different here, burnt almonds and wet slate. Future archaeologists will carbon date this stench to bat guano layers, but you know better. It's the reek of stress sweat preserved in calcium deposits. Your toe kicks something. A child's wooden doll, limbs chewed by beetles. Drag marks suggest it was pulled from the ice, then abandoned. X-rays later showed 2 date pits stuffed inside its head. Ancient toy or votive offering. Museums love their mysteries. Sudden draft, your left sleeve flaps like a dying bird. Somewhere above, a wind tower feeding night air into the depths. Modern engineers reverse engineered this in 2018, published papers titled Passive Cooling Rediscovered. Cue slow clap for academia. The floor slopes. You slide, grabbing a protruding brick. It's loose. Yank it free, honey oozes from the hole. Beeswax plugs once sealed air vents. Lick your finger, centuries-old saffron tingles your tongue. Storage hack or keeper's secret snack stash. Both, always both. Light your last match. The flame bends horizontal, drafted toward a slit in the wall. Fire's arch nemesis sleeps just beyond, a mound of charcoal and molted snakeskins. Absorbs moisture, repels rats. Innovation's ugly cousins. Desperation and improvisation. Blackened handprints smudge the next archway. Each midnight shift, a palm pressed here to test for warmth. 500 years of paranoia leave stains no solvent can lift. Touch it, the soot feels fresh. A drip echoes, then another. Too rhythmic for nature. Follow the sound to a cleft in the ice, copper bowl beneath it, catching meltwater. Tenders measured leaks by counting strikes against metal. 3 drips per minute meant 20 days until collapse. Tightrope math with no safety nets. Beneath the bowl, scratch tallies. 16 lines crossed, then a 17th half finished. Did the keeper flee? Or did summer finally win? The answers frozen mid-scrawl. Reach the heart chamber. Walls ripple with salt crystals glittering like miniature stars. Workers spread salt to lower ice's melting point. Simple chemistry until you taste it. Brine carries hints of tamarind. Someone seasoned the frost. Leather hinges creak. A hidden door swings open. Inside, a stone slab etched with shifting constellations. Star maps for timing ice harvests, or some bored tender's astronomy homework. UV scans revealed erased Persian poetry underneath. Priorities shift. Your breath mists red. Looking up, crimson lichen paints the ceiling. Species unknown to science gorging on iron oxide and condensed whispers. Biologists want samples. The lichen wants your eyelids. Turn back. Shadows congeal into something solid, a patched wall that wasn't there before. Press your palm against it. The mud blend matches 14th century drought recipes. Time folds. History loops. Spider silk strands catch your cheek. Follow them upward, a web stretched across a vent shaft. Captured pollen proves medieval ice traded as far as Baghdad. Flora's smugglers, crawling where merchants couldn't. The exit glows. Dawn. No, your eyes adjusted to the dark. Reality reasserts itself with a scorpion skittering over your boot. It drags an ice shard twice its size. Even the wildlife hears overachieving. Step into blinding heat, carrying the vault's chill in your marrow. Behind you, silence resets. Somewhere below, a copper bowl counts drips for no one. The palace air cloys your throat, thick with rosewater and regret. You sidestep a sweating servant, his silver tray piled with apricot sherbet, already weeping crimson puddles. Mainstream fact, Shah Abbas, I demanded iced drinks year-round his feasts, featuring snow hauled from Mount Damavand. Never mind that peasants 3 streets overdrank from mud puddles. Down a marble corridor, slippery, with hastily mopped melon juice, each doorway reveals new absurdities. A noblewoman bathing in ice melt for luminosity. A vizier using frozen rose petals to cool his wine. The ice didn't care about titles, it melted on everyone equally. Catch a server's elbow before she collapses, her linen head wraps soaked through, smelling of salt and exhaustion. They want another round before the ambassador arrives, she hisses. Historians still argue whether the famed strawberry syrup came from Armenia or was looted from a Portuguese merchant ship. Duck into an alcove your back against a relief of lion hunts. Through the lattice, watch a kitchen boy chip ice blocks with a bronze pick. His hands move like his grandfather's did, same motions, same blisters. Quirky secret, sugar shipments from Basra took priority over military supplies during heat waves. No war mattered more than granulated sweetness. The ice cellar door groans open. A puff of cold slaps your face. Inside, sloping shelves hold snow packed in juniper sawdust. A ledger nailed to the wall lists deliveries. 3rd month, 11 camel loads lost to bandits, and 1 to a bribable guard's lemonade habit. Footsteps echo, hide behind a stack of saffron crates as the royal taster enters, a wiry man sniffing each ice block for poison. His right earlobe's missing, punishment for last year's watermelon sorbet incident. They never found the scorpion's accomplice. Follow him deeper into a vault where ice sculptures slowly commit suicide. A peacock's tail drips onto a tiger's muzzle, predator and prey united by meltwater. Oil lamps hiss where they shouldn't, their heat a calculated risk. Cold versus light, the eternal palace dilemma. A crash upstairs, servants scramble to cover the noise with lute music. You kneel beside shattered crystal goblets, scooping spilled pomegranate ice with your fingers. Sweet, then metallic. Turns out crushed rubies in recipes wasn't metaphor. Gem dust tinted the desserts. Dentists would have wept. Overhead, a balcony argument. The finance minister shouts about ice tariffs. The queen counters with peach sorbet metaphors. Their voices melt together, a lesson in thermal dynamics. Power always burns hotter than money. Dodge a procession of snow gatherers, their boots leaving slushy trails on cobalt tiles. One man's burden shifts, revealing a frozen mouse in the ice. He doesn't notice. Palace kitchens had strict no substitutions policies. Peek into the throne room, Shah's crown glinting above a mountain of shaved ice. Envoys from Bengal fan themselves, staring at the spectacle. Their translator mumbles, "Is cold magic, or just very organized water?" Diplomacy often misses the point. A eunuch rushes past, clutching a lead box. Inside, ice from the royal family's private glacier. Touching it meant losing a hand at tasting. It meant losing everything else. Find the back staircase. Narrow steps worn smooth by generations of dessert couriers. A mural here shows an ice-bearing caravan, camels stylized into dancing curves. Restoration crews found dried yogurt beneath the paint. Some artists snack immortalized. The hallway ends at the harem baths, steam curling around jeweled screens. Through the haze, see attendant girls rubbing ice cubes on the favorite wife's neck. Her laughter echoes off wet tiles, sharp as a diamond cutting glass. Beneath a rosebush planter, grab an abandoned sorbet spoon, its handles engraved with a vizier's name, scratched out after his sudden retirement. Palace life, where cutlery doubled as a CV. Sunlight blazes through a courtyard window. Your shadow falls across a melting swan sculpture. Its beaked head tilts, icy water dripping like quiet mockery. Outlive your usefulness, and you'll puddle too. Retreat through the servant's wing, past a boy fanning ice blocks with peacock feathers. His cheeks puff comically, each breath fogging the air. Modern HVAC engineers take notes, sipping lattes in climate-controlled offices. A door slams. Silence follows, the kind that means you've overstayed. Scoot down a hallway lined with ice-slick mirrors. Your reflection fractures into a dozen fleeing criminals. Last sight before escaping, a scribe in the archives, dipping his pen while nibbling stolen mint ice. His parchment shows half-finished poems about winter written in a land where snow only exists underground. The stables reek of wet camel. You hitch a ride on a dung cart, its driver whistling through missing teeth. As the palace shrinks behind you, a kitchen girl appears on the wall. She tosses a sliver of lemon ice downward. It shatters on stone one last cold gift. Dung clings to your sandals as the cart lurches onto the trade road. Camel bells clanking louder than the driver's off-key whistle. Moonlight reveals shapes ahead. 30-odd pack animals shifting weight from hoof to hoof. Their loads bulge under linen tarps, sweating rectangles casting ghostly vapors into the night. Salt traders always traveled after sundown. But tonight's cargo chills the air itself. A handler beckons you closer, his face a topography of scars. Watch the footing, he growls, kicking aside a melon rind. Mainstream fact. Abacadera salt routes became ice highways by accident. Merchants realized their camels could haul cold as easily as sodium. He yanks a tarp corner, revealing ice blocks sawed into brick shapes. Each glittering slab wears a crust of straw and sand, nature's cling wrap. White gold, the man mutters, adjusting ropes with fingers blackened by frostbite. His left pinky's tip is missing, the desert's autograph on those who touch its treasures. Historians still argue whether caravans moved ice by day or solely at night. Ledgers from Aleppo mention, both depending on which guards got bribed. You duck as a hawk-eyed merchant strides past, checking loads with a lantern held too close. Meltwater hisses against hot glass. 1 degree tilt ruins the brine ratio. He barks at a drover. Quirky detail, drivers plugged gaps between ice blocks with sheep fat, a trick learned from Byzantine cheese smugglers. The smell reportedly attracted lions and very confused badgers. A camel lows its breath, frosting the air. The handler slaps its flank. Quiet, girl, we're not smuggling silence. His joke lands like a dropped amphora. Across the dunes, jackals yip at the moon. Their calls mimic the ice's creaks as it settles, a duet of desperation and patience. Help secure a slipped tarp, your palms stinging from salt-crusted ropes. The merchant tosses you a water skin without looking. The liquid inside is brackish until an ice chunk melts into it. First rule of desert travel, even water needs seasoning. Sudden shouting upstream. A mule's panicked bray cuts through whispers. 3 drovers surround a collapsed beast, its load shifting dangerously. The ice reveals its true form mid-slip, frozen freshwater from the Alborz Mountains, and a surprised-looking trout suspended mid-wriggle. Kitchen staff paid extra for these flavor crystals. Royal chefs swore fish ice made sherbet taste Bavarian. Dawn threatens in the east, streaking the sand peach and panic. The merchant bellows orders, his voice fraying like overstretched twine. Camels rise in unison, knees popping like ice-splitting stone. One handler crosses, himself another spits 3 times. Protection rituals varied, results didn't. Your cart joins the procession, wheels crunching over salt-cured mud. Ahead, a boy walks backward, guiding camels, while unraveling a woolen path. His footprints fill with shadow, each step a temporary claim on the desert. Modern engineers would applaud the technique until their GPS shorted out from sand inhalation. A gust screeches through the caravan, linens flap like unquiet ghosts. Ice glints where tarps fail. The merchant roars, cover it or wear it. A drover near you loses his headscarf to the wind. He keeps working with bare head. Later chronicles will call this bravery. He'd call it needing the wage. Noon finds the group huddled under rock overhangs, sunlight stalking the landscape like a scorned lover. Crushed ice gets sprinkled over dates. The only safe breakfast when heat curdles goat milk. You chew slowly, savoring the crackle of frost between your teeth. The merchant eyes your portion. Lick too fast, and your tongue stays here. He warns, proving desert humor hasn't thawed in centuries. By dusk, the first ice house appears, a mud brick dome humped against the horizon. Workers emerge like ants, sensing sugar, their songs harmonizing with pulley ropes. The merchant dismounts stiffly, never losing his scowl. Unloading before moonrise, he snaps. And check for scorpions. Last shipment had a nest in Block 7. Inside the vault, your breath hangs visible. Men stack ice with wooden tongs, biceps trembling. One worker pauses, rubbing an amulet at his throat. 21st century digs near Isfahan found similar talismans, each carved with a different cold god's name. Monotheism had limits when frost was your savior. The merchant examines a melting block, presses thumb into its glassy cheek. 11% loss, he mutters. Better than Qum, worse than Yazd. His ledger stays dry, ink would freeze here. Calculations lived in nods and grunts until summer's heat erased them. As stars prick the sky, you slip out beside a salt-crusted camel. Its fur crackles under your touch, frozen sweat, and bad decisions. Somewhere ahead, another ice house, another merchant, another midnight argument over percentage splits. The desert's economy ran on ephemera, trusting sun to forgive what moon preserved. The handler appears, offering a rag wrapped around something cold. Unfold it, revealing an ice chip tinged pink. For the road, he grunts, pomegranate frozen during Nowruz, good luck, or food poisoning. You suck the shard slowly, sweet and earthy, while the caravan dissolves into heat shimmers. They'll reach Baghdad by Tuesday if the desert doesn't reclaim its water first. Your tongue still buzzes from the pink ice, its farewell tang mixing with dust kicked up by vanished camels. Ahead, a cluster of mud domes hunched like sleeping tortoises. European traders clatter past on horseback, their armor clinking like a drunkard's coin purse. They squint at the structures, then dismiss them as peasant granaries. Mainstream fact: 16th century Venetian merchant Marco Polo mentioned Persian ice houses in his journals, then devoted 6 pages to describing a yak. One rider dismounts, his boots sinking into suspiciously cool soil. He prods a dome with his sword hilt. Hollow as my wife's piety, he announces. His companions laugh, missing the faint drip-drip echoing beneath their feet. Quirky tidbit: crusaders believed these mounds hid cursed ice that burned hotter than hell. A rumor started by competing Genoese spice dealers. You crouch beside a lizard basking on sun-warmed bricks. Touch the wall, your palm meets clammy clay. The inside's frostbite breath fights the outside's furnace pant. A child's giggle floats from a ventilation shaft, workers testing acoustics, or ghosts of apprentices trapped in collapse. Historians still argue whether Persian engineers shared techniques with Mughal builders or just traded insults via spice road graffiti. A merchant caravan approaches, riders swaddled in scarves despite the heat. Their leader barks at the Europeans. Don't piss uphill from the domes. His threat needs 3 translators, each making it filthier. They ride off, leaving the Venetians to ponder Persian plumbing etiquette. Sunset melts the dunes to liquid copper. You follow a worker slipping into a side tunnel, his lamp dying as he descends. Muffled cracks echo, ice blocks being shifted by feel. Your boot crunches a discarded melon rind, pickled in 400-year-old frost. Above, scholars argue whether these vaults inspired Renaissance ice cellars, ignoring the obvious fact that darkness is free to anyone brave enough to stand still. Stars emerge, sharp as ice splinters. That merchant's pink crystal still numbs your teeth, or is that the air stealing warmth from your jaw? A jackal's howl stitches the night together, its rhythm matching the slow creep of meltwater through sand. Modern architects would kill for these insulation ratios, then charge HOA fees for the privilege. Dawn exposes reality. Those humble granaries birthed empires. Date farmers check ice stocks for summer, silk traders hoard cold like gemstones. Children chip frost for dying grandmothers. You find a dropped coin near the domes, its face worn smooth by thumbs seeking reassurance. Flip it, heads for adventure, tails for survival. The desert answers with a wind-blown shrug, same as ever. A worker tosses spoiled ice onto the sand. It boils into mist before hitting ground. His shrug says everything. Even failure has its theater. You pocket a shred of wool insulation, its fibers still smelling of midnight panic and sheep philosophy. The next caravan leaves in an hour carrying the real treasure, not ice, proof that quiet endurance outshouts any sun. Mud sucks at your sandals as the caravan turns westward, following a dry riverbed that's more whisper than water. Camels balk at a crumbling hole in the earth, their handlers grumbling about cannot madness. You peer down the dark gullet of a tunnel dropping into nothing. A worker tosses pebbles into the black, counting seconds until splash. Mainstream fact. These hand-dug tunnels stretch farther than some rivers. One near Tehran runs 45 miles without a single pump. Your guide lights a rancid tallow torch, its smoke curdling the air. Mind the steps, he says, as if you could see them. Damp walls press closer with each descent, your shoulders flinching from phantom drips. Voices echo ahead, chain workers chanting in a lost dialect. Historians still argue whether qanats ever doubled as emergency escape routes, or just really committed rat highways. The tunnel floor numbs your feet, ancient seepage puddling through reed mats. Someone ahead sneezes, the sound ricocheting like a gunshot. Workers chuckle, their laughs bouncing off engineering, perfected when Rome was still farming cabbages. A hand grips your elbow, steering you around a pit where 3 mule skeletons grin up from the muck. Quirky tidbit. Engineers tested airflow by listening through hollowed goat horns, 11th century earbuds for the acoustically obsessed. Light fractures the dark, a vertical shaft piercing the ceiling. Dust motes spin like tiny dervishes in the sunbeam until a child's face blocks the light. She drops a fig. It plops into a channel flowing with ghostly clarity. Drinkable, you ask. The guide snorts. If you enjoy dysentery roulette, night falls underground. Workers string damp rags overhead, collecting condensation in tin cups. One man licks his catch grimacing at the metallic tang. Better than camel piss, he declares. His comrades toast with rust-colored water, their lanterns, casting hunchbacked shadows on walls carved by calloused hands. Dawn trickles through access shafts, golden coins, paying the earth's toll. You surface near an abandoned ice house, its dome blistered by centuries of sun. A dig team's flag flutters nearby, bright plastic mocking the muted sands. Modern engineers found a canot here in 2017, its floor littered with leather buckets and a single ivory die, gambling the true universal language. Your guide spits into the tunnel mouth. Dead now, he mutters, ignoring the echo that answers. Somewhere beneath you, meltwater still whispers through sealed channels. The desert claims its own, but not without leaving receipts. Cameras click as tourists photograph the ancient aqueduct. None notice the child pressing her ear to the ground, listening for the ice's final gasp. You pocket a pebble smoothed by forgotten flows, its surface cold as an engineer's last breath. The caravan moves on dust devils pirouetting where water once roared. Moonlight turns the desert silver, your breath hanging like lace in air sharp enough to cut glass. Workers spread across a frozen lake, their silhouettes crouched over ice thicker than a king's vanity. Blades bite into the surface, each strike timed between heartbeats to avoid splintering crystal. Historians trace ice sails to Baghdad's Golden Age markets, royal ledgers listing mountain breath as a taxable commodity. Someone hands you a 7-inch wedge, its handle worn smooth by generations of frost-nipped palms. You mimic the harvester's short jabs, chips scattering like diamond confetti. A man laughs through his frozen beard. Hammer the weak spots, ice whispers where it's brittle. Nearby, a boy licks his blade, tongue sticking fast until his uncle pours urine to free him. The taste, according to 14th century health manuals, prevents scurvy. You decline the offered flask. The crew works barehanded, calluses acting as makeshift gloves. One woman presses her palm against fresh-cut ice, sealing hairline cracks with body heat. Like stitching wounds, she mutters, though historians still debate whether this technique preserved ice or just gave workers early arthritis. Moonlight glints off piled blocks, each one hauled to straw-lined pits before dawn's first blush. A teenager trips his wedge, skittering into the dark. Elders click their tongues, Drop a tool, lose an hour. He scrambles to retrieve it, fingers brushing something smooth beneath the ice. Later, he'll swear he felt a Roman coin, though legionnaires never reached this valley. The crew roasts him anyway, their laughter cracking the cold like axe blows. Wind slices through your layers, knifing past wool and resentment. Workers stuff their ears with mutton fat, an old trick to prevent frostbite-induced hallucinations. The cold talks, warns a harvester, adjusting his rotten fish face wrap. Last season, my cousin followed a voice singing his mother's lullaby found him frozen in a fox den. You press your sleeves tighter against your ears. Dogs pace the perimeter, teeth bared at shadow jackals, drawn by the scent of sweating men. A handler tosses them ice shards, rewarding silence over barking. Learned from the Mongols, he grunts, referencing invaders who stole yakchal designs during sieges. You eye the frozen lake, suddenly grateful for the dark, hiding its depth. Dawn threatens in cobalt streaks. The foreman shouts orders. Last blocks get hauled uphill on sleds dampened to reduce squeaks. Workers load the final slab, its surface frosted with constellations. Modern engineers would drool over its purity, no microplastics, just dead stars and older water. Men collapse against piled wool sacks, passing a skin of wine that freezes midway between sips. Someone hums a harvesting hymn, the same tune found on a 900-year-old ocarina in Cashin's Archaeology Museum. Your fingers ache with phantom blisters as you pocket an ice chip, its edges already melting into memory. The desert exhales, wiping clean the night's work with a single sunlit breath. You kneel beside a half-built ice chamber, your palms sinking into mortar, still steaming from last night's mix. 6 workers layer charcoal over packed sand, each stratum a shield against the sun's greed. A teenage apprentice sneezes, jet black powder blooming across his face like inverse constellations. That's the 9th sneeze, groans a supervisor. At this rate, we'll need another goat. Charcoal absorbs moisture better than a merchant's ledger. Historians confirm its use in over 30 Persian ice houses, yet your fingers find something stringy in the mix. Goat hair, explains the mortar master, kneading the strands like dough. Stolen from a Mongol warlord's tent, or so my grandfather claimed. You resist asking how one borrows hair from an invading army. The crew spreads sand above the charcoal, each handful measured by eye. Scholars still argue whether these layers followed precise ratios, or just some laborer's gut feeling about enough. Heat rises through your leather soles as the foreman barks, his voice muffled by 30 feet of earth overhead. Faster. The date syrup won't bind once it sweats. You press straw into wet clay, the reeds crunching like celery. Across the chamber, a worker seals cracks with donkey dung. His technique matches descriptions from a 13th century icehouse manual, though the text never mentions the smell. Better than camel droppings, he shrugs. Less earthy. Wind sneaks through the entry tunnel, carrying the reek of boiling tar. Teenagers slather it over finished walls, their brushes hissing against hot clay. Someone jokes about bribing the Tanners Guild for sweeter-smelling sealant. Elders hush them, superstitious about insulting materials that swallow summer whole. 3 layers down, your shovel clinks against something cold. A curled parchment rests in the dust, its ink bleached by centuries. The crew crowds around. Inventory list deciphers the foreman. 14 camel loads of ice, 1 damaged ladle, 3 cases of he falters. The final word's an ancient term for worker accidents. You all pretend not to notice. Midday heat seeps through the roof, testing the insulation. Modern engineers estimate these vaults stayed below 40 degrees, even in August, though good luck finding a Persian willing to check. Sweat drips onto your sand layer, each droplet swallowed before reaching the charcoal. Nature's own blotting paper. A crash echoes from the access shaft. Down tumbles a basket, its sides lined with date palm fibers. From the vizier's gardens yells a voice above. You add the fluff to your section, fantasizing about royal gardeners plucking fuzz while nobles napped. The fibers snag on your calluses, clingier than a baker's debts. As sunset stains the sand red, you spot scratches on the northern wall. Fingernail marks or tool gauges. The mortar master scowls. Leave it. Last crew got creative with their ratios. His tone suggests creative engineers now plant olives 6 feet under. You emerge into twilight, arms caked in charcoal and questionable choices. A vendor offers saffron-infused snow cones, the ice hauled from this very vault 3 summers past. Historians still argue whether the saffron was for taste or to hide the goat hair aftertaste. You take 2. Stars prick the sky as oil lamps flicker below. The crew's laughter rises through the shaft, warmer than the dying desert air. Somewhere beneath your feet, winter sleeps in layers, dreaming of outlasting empires. Your sandal scuffs the entryway, sending a pebble bouncing down into the dark. You wait, but the silence eats even that tiny rebellion whole. You lick saffron-stained fingers as torchlight reveals grooves in the entryway, names carved deep enough to outlast their owners. Al-Muzafar's ice vault reads the foreman, tracing letters weathered to shadows, a 14th century vizier who funded 17 such structures. Though records suggest he never tasted ice himself. Workers lower a tribute slab into position, its surface glittering with crushed quartz. The emir's seal mutters a mason chiseling falcon motifs. His apprentice snickers, looks more like a startled chicken. Someone hushes him. Wealthy patrons paid extra for animal themes, even if the artists had never seen a real tiger. Your sandal catches on a loose brick. Beneath lies a terracotta plaque, its inscription half-eaten by salt winds. For the glory of followed by blank space, where a name once boasted, historians still argue whether these gaps resulted from modesty or subsequent lords chiseling out rivals' claims. A laborer passes with a jar of lapis lazuli pigment reserved for spelling patrons' titles. The blue drips like crushed midnight between his fingers. 10 years scraping sheep hides, he grumbles, just to gild some bureaucrat's cousin twice removed. His buddy shrugs. Better than marinating in the vizier's dungeon. You spot recent chisel marks near the ceiling, a nobleman's coat of arms being erased. The stone weeps rusty tears where the family's leopard emblem once prowled. New donor, explains the mortar master. Old one missed a payment. He winks, though the joke lands colder than the vault's deepest chamber. Beneath a false floor, you find tablets listing ancient icehouse funders. Third on the list, Periconum, a noblewoman's name sandwiched between warlords. Her entry includes a tiny lotus flower, an odd choice for desert royalty. Scholars recently confirmed female patrons were more common than records suggest, a fact erased by later historians' inkpots. Sunset brings inspectors clutching wax tablets. They measure wall thickness with gold-plated rulers, each tick mark demanding another bribe. You watch coins disappear into silk sleeves, then miraculously reappear as satisfactory verdicts. The head inspector's belt jingles with tokens from 17 other projects, none related to refrigeration. Midnight oil lamps reveal graffiti in a supply niche. Beneath crude drawings of a sweating nobleman, someone scratched, "My ice outlasts your bloodline." The foreman pretends not to see it, though his smirk suggests ancestral participation. Dawn exposes a cracked dedication stone. Workers debate filling it with date syrup or tamarind paste. Use camel glue, orders the patron's steward, arriving unannounced. His perfume clashes with the dank air roses wrestling rotten eggs. The crew obeys, while secretly pocketing the expensive resin for their own projects. You brush dust from a ledger abandoned near the air shaft. Columns list exotic expenses, peacock quills for contract signing, silver dust mixed into foundation, mortar, a poet hired solely to compose odes to the ice house. Modern accountants estimate ornamental costs alone could funded 3 functional vaults. But functional doesn't feed a lord's ego. A shout echoes down the tunnel. Buried beneath the newest plaque lies a hollow jar, its clay still soft. Inside rests a papyrus scrap. May the rats feast on your summer home. You pompous, the rest disintegrates as you unroll it. Nearby, a worker whistles innocently while mixing mortar. As stars fade, the crew gathers to mount the patron's plaque. Gold leaf sticks to sweaty fingers, Arabic calligraphy, wobbling like a drunk scribe's first attempt. No one mentions the misspelled honorific. By noon, dust will bury the error, and the wind will begin its own slow editing. You exit as the first desert lark sings. Behind you, wealthy men's names sink into clay, their boasts silenced by shrewd masons and patient dunes. The ice outlasts them all, chuckling in its frozen dark. You shuffle through moonlit alleys where villagers crush pomegranate seeds underfoot, staining cobblestones the color of old blood. Their sandals stick to the syrup as they approach the ice house, an offering to spirits even older than Persia's gods. Teenagers giggle while elders scold. Tradition demands silence during the frost walk, though nobody remembers why. A girl presses her palm against the ice house's southern wall, the side nearest the buried cannot tunnels. Coldest spot, whispers her aunt. They're testing a new harvest ritual, rubbing barley dough on clay bricks to predict next season's yield. If the dough freezes in hexagonal patterns, the village feasts. If not, well, better plant extra lentils. You spot a boy hiding behind a donkey cart, clutching a stolen sliver of ice in his shirt. His mother's voice cuts through the dark. Return it before the cold maker claims your fingers. Local legend says the ice's guardian spirit takes body parts as payment, pinkies first. Archaeologists found a child-sized mitten in a 9th century ice house. Drains still debates over whether it's evidence of superstition or actual frostbite remedies. 3 old women unravel yarn along the eastern facade, measuring the building's shadow at midnight. Same as last year, clucks one, squinting at wool strands. Their knots encode generations of temperature data, if only someone could decipher them. A German engineer published papers on these knot calendars in 1987, then mysteriously quit academia to raise llamas in Peru. A toddler shrieks as his father holds him up to the vent shaft. Hear that, winter's ghost. The sound, if you strain, resembles breath whistling through a camel's nasal cavity. Historians still argue whether the noise came from trapped desert winds or clever priests hiding bone flutes in the walls. Teenagers dare each other to lick the frost-rimmed doorframe, their tongues sticking briefly before the night watchman chases them off. You notice half-moon scars on the wood from decades of identical dares. The village surgeon once kept a ledger of ice tongue injuries, 8 pages of teenaged regret, and 2 dislocated jaws. Midnight brings the beard test. Elders hang goat hair strands above the main vault, observing how the fibers stiffen in the cold. 13 curls mean a mild summer, explains a wool merchant. His own beard, sprinkled with ice crystals, twitches as he speaks. Modern meteorologists confirm these methods had 62% accuracy, better than some weather apps. A widow arranges clay dolls at the ice house's threshold, each dressed in miniature felt coats. For the frost brides, she murmurs. Scroll fragments mention a lost myth about winter spirits marrying sunlight, their doomed union creating the first ice. Tour guides love this story, though most scholars dismiss it as medieval fan fiction. Dawn reveals a drunk farmer passed out against the north wall, his snores syncing with the drip-drip of melting runoff. Children draw arrows in the mud pointing to him, a prank for the morning patrol. The village judge will later fine him 3 chickens and secretly keep the plumpest for himself. You find a prayer scroll wedged between bricks, its ink bleeding from centuries of condensation. Words blur into Rorschach stains, save one crisp phrase: protect us from the thirsty sun. Researchers, using spectral imaging, found similar prayers in 11 other ice houses, always facing Mecca, always smudged, except that exact sentence. A merchant's wife bribes the keeper with silver earrings. Her husband's apricot shipment went sour last week. Just 1 block, she pleads. He pockets the jewelry, then gifts her a palm-sized chunk wrapped in fig leaves. The secret: it's just well water frozen in a clay pot. But placebo commerce thrives in any century. Boys dig for ice worms near the foundation, creatures supposedly bred in perpetual darkness. They find only a fossilized scorpion, which becomes the village's hottest commodity by noon. The blacksmith buys it for 7 dates, intending to glue it onto a dagger hilt. Fake ice worm talismans will flood the market within days. A traveling scholar sketches the ice house while chewing fermented radishes, his breath souring the air. Where's the he mimes digging? Villagers pretend not to understand, though everyone knows the hidden access tunnel. Outsiders ask about ice preservation. Locals protect the secret with shrugs and bad directions to camel pastures. Your fingers brush a charcoal drawing on the ceiling, stick figures dancing around a rectangular prism, a child's artwork from 6 centuries ago, or someone's blueprint for thermodynamically efficient party planning. The keeper covers it with mud when officials visit, then scrubs it clean each equinox. As jackals howl in the distance, you watch villagers retreat to their homes. The ice house stands alone now, its whispers swallowed by star-choked skies. Someone left a clay jug of mint tea at the entrance. By dawn, it'll be cold enough to crack teeth and perfect for bargaining. Dawn cracks open the sky, revealing villagers already queued at the ice house. Their breath hangs like trapped clouds. You watch a shepherd thrust greasy wool bundles at the keeper, payment for 3 finger-width ice slabs. It's the oldest barter system nobody taught in school, just mutton-scented capitalism with better frost preservation. Midwives elbow through the crowd, linen pouches ready. For the birthing tent, demands 1, jingling bronze needles. The keeper shaves translucent curls into her waiting hands. 10th century medical scrolls prescribed ice packs for fevers, though historians still argue whether chilled brows saved lives or just made corpses more presentable. A charcoal-smeared blacksmith hesitates, offering wrought iron hooks in trade. The keeper shakes his head. Metal's useless here. Only wool absorbs meltwater without stinking. Someone once tried trading saffron. The keeper used it to dye ice blocks gold for a prince's vanity project. Let's just say food coloring hadn't been invented yet. You notice nobody says the keeper's name, not even when children bow. His title clings like frost, cold father for toddlers, ice uncle for teens, that thieving glacier for disgruntled melon vendors. Census records show keepers listed as male servant non-heritable, though a 1923 dig found a burial site with she who chilled the sun carved in stone. Two girls dump armfuls of almond shells by the east vent, a gift for the iceworms. Their giggles die when the keeper emerges, holding yesterday's scorpion fossil. Your beasts prefer pistachios, he deadpans. The resulting nut embargo collapses by lunchtime. A debt collector stalks the perimeter, poking his ledger into shadowy corners. He's after the baker who swapped 10 snow-moldy loaves for summer ice storage. Too bad the guy fled to a date farm, leaving behind an oven still smoky with poor decisions. Village rumors claim his rolls could have doubled as clay bricks with marginally better flavor. You sidestep a puddle of mint tea, last night's offering now syrup thick and crawling with ants. They're building a miniature ice house from sand grains, or maybe that's sleep deprivation talking. The keeper sweeps them away, reserving judgment. Glassworkers arrive at high noon, their scarred hands cradling reed baskets. They need ice to cool molten beads without cracking them secret techniques later stolen by Venetian traders. The keeper demands 2 finished vials per block, plus a guarantee against exploding ornament lawsuits. A widow slips the keeper a fig cake, sticky fingers brushing his palm. Her daughter's wedding requires iced yogurt, and social protocol requires bribery. He redirects her to the melting runoff basin, perfect for desserts, and discreetly watering down rice wine. Teenagers dare each other to touch the north wall barefoot, a rite of passage since someone's great-grandfather lost a toe. The current record, 14 seconds before the viceroy's nephew screamed like a scalded cat. His silk slippers still dangle from the roof, faded trophies of rich kid shame. Dust swirls around a smuggler's donkey, its saddlebags suspiciously lumpy. Everyone knows he's stealing slush for a rival village, but nobody stops him. Let the idiot learn ice melts faster than loyalty. By sunset, his cargo will be a damp stain and a life lesson. You catch the apothecary mixing ice chips with crushed lapis, lazuli, for cooling aristocratic tempers. His ledger lists this as blue serenity, tonic translating to overpriced placebo. Modern labs found traces of the same mineral in noblemen's teeth, early attempts at blinged-out dentistry. The keeper's shadow stretches long as he seals the vault, 3 clay clicks echoing across the square. Villagers scatter like startled quail. He lingers, palming a sliver of leftover ice. Moonlight carves his silhouette into something timeless, a figure caught between service and myth. Somewhere, a midwife presses frost to a child's burning forehead. Somewhere, wool traders haggle over melt rates, and you stand where countless others have stood breathing air that still tastes like winter's hidden pulse. As stars prick the sky, The keeper vanishes into his hut, its walls papered with decade-old trading ledgers, ice prices, weather patterns, and in the margins, a single charcoal sketch of a smiling woman holding a pomegranate. He never looks at it, but you do. You taste grit before seeing the storm, sand seeping into seams between teeth. The horizon belches ochre dust, its advance silent as starlight. Workers materialize with woven reed mats, battening vents before the onslaught. They move like cave fish, no torches to betray positions. Moonlit repairs happen nightly. This desert's a persistent lover, knocking down walls to get attention. 3 teens haul a clay sled, its cargo glistening with donkey urine. You'd think it's another ice trade, until they slather the mix onto crumbling mortar. Turns out ammonia strengthens mud bricks, a trick later borrowed by Renaissance fresco artists. The keeper watches from his roof, approving without smiling. His ledger notes 40 jars collected and complaints about smell. A worker carves squiggles into fresh plaster camels with cartoonish grins. Archaeologists will someday call these ritual symbols, ignoring the crude joke about a mayor's nose. Preservation's serious work doesn't mean you can't doodle while the glue dries. The storm hits like 1,000 hissing cats. Sand peppers your neck, finding gaps in scarves with malicious precision. Workers retreat underground, listening as the structure groans above. Someone hums the ice cutter's hymn, its vibrations steadying trembling hands. Historians still debate whether these songs held acoustic purpose or just drowned out the sound of impending collapse. Dawn reveals damage, sunlight stabbing through a new hole in the east wall. The breach looks like a giant's bite mark if giants ate adobe instead of children. Repair crews arrive with egg-white mortar, the drought-forced substitutions, straws too precious for walls when hungry goats roam. You spot a hidden layer in the cross-section, charcoal, and crushed pottery shards beneath fresh mud. Each rebuild hides former versions like nested dolls. Somewhere down, there lies a beer stain from 812 CE, proof even ancient engineers needed liquid courage. A girl offers the keeper a lizard skin, perfect for patching small leaks. He tests its elasticity, then hands back a sliver of ice shaped like a scorpion. The trade language here needs no verbs, just raised eyebrows and pocketed treasures. Wind screams through fissures, playing the structure like a rotten flute. Workers stuff gaps with soaked goat hair, expanding fibers, outsmarting physics. Modern insulation companies use polymer foam, same principle. Less body odor. Midday heat warps the air, making distant dunes shimmy like drunk cobras. The crew shelters in a tunnel washed with snowmelt. Someone produces a dented bronze dice set. Bets are placed on which wall crumbles next. You notice the northwest corner holds strong, its slope exactly 17 degrees from vertical. Coincidence? Calculation. A 1967 study suggested the angle deflected sand until A rival paper blamed random weathering patterns. The debate rages in journals nobody reads on beaches. Sunset brings a second shift, their hands calloused from different trades. A potter adjusts mud viscosity by feel. A weaver braids reinforcement ropes. A failed poet scribbles warnings on bricks. Beware the month of sand and spleen. One inscription insists. Death records show he later choked on a fig pit, poetry unfinished. The keeper paces the perimeter, counting steps between old cracks and new. His shadow merges with those of 100 predecessors. They all wore the same squint, same palm calloused by ice hooks, same sand in every crevice. You crouch where a wall meets earth, pressing your palm to chill, lingering in the foundation. Somewhere beneath lies a child's leather ball forgotten centuries ago. Further down, the echo of workers laughing at a joke lost to time. The moon rises, the desert inhales, and the walls hold for now. The keeper's fingers sink into wet clay, kneading like a baker sensing dough's secrets. No blueprints here. Recipes live in scar tissue and worn knuckles. You watch apprentices mimic his pressure, palms flat, pinkies arched, sculpting air before touching mortar. One overthickens the mix. A calloused hand slaps his wrist, silent correction, written in sting. Icehouse geometry flows through fingertips, not papyrus. Remember those Venetian architects stealing dome techniques centuries later. They needed quills and compasses. Persians had thumbnail indentations as measurement guides. Modern engineers found mortar samples with fingerprint ridges preserved, accidental resumes from nameless masters. A girl tests viscosity by licking the slurry, winces at alkaline bitterness. Approved. Historians still argue whether taste mattered, or if apprentices just endured hazing rituals. Her spit-shined brick joins the wall, indistinguishable from others, except to initiates. Night brings the charcoal game. Blindfolded apprentices sort ash textures by touch palm red differences between almond wood and olive pits. Guess wrong, and you haul water till dawn. Guess right, and the keeper carves your initial into a hidden beam. Some rafters bristle with centuries of ghostly signatures, unseen accolades. You spot a teenager smuggling reed pulp into the mix, his private experiment. The keeper smells rebellion and crumbles the sample, then nods. Next batch includes exactly 2 straws more per brick. Innovation tolerated, never praised. Dew becomes the enemy. Workers dab walls with felt mitts at first light, sucking moisture before it weakens seams. An apprentice laughs, dousing his sleeve. His punishment: charting evaporation rates for a month using only a sundial and his own eyebrows as salt gauges. Legends whisper of a master who mapped air currents through finger vibrations. Realities less romantic. Apprentices memorize wind patterns by how sand abrades their left cheek. Survival math. Stinging face equals thicker eastern walls. A dispute erupts over slope angles. Two builders press hands against a controversial curve, arguing through palm heat and grip tension. The keeper settles it by spitting on their trowels, whose droplet rolls faster winds. Physics adjourned. You find pressed into a drying brick tiny handprints of the master's toddler. Tomorrow, they'll be plastered over. For now, they mark where play and pedagogy briefly aligned. Midday drills involve crushing fired bricks barefoot, sensing fracture points through calloused soles. An old trick, the best mortar mimics foot-cracked rubble's granularity. Archaeologists later called this ritual destruction nope, just practical education. The keeper demonstrates equilibrium by balancing a mud dollop on his nose. It sticks. Apprentices attempt slide into beards, laughter cracking the morning's rigor. Even masters need visible. Failures keeps the learners brave. Sunset reveals the day's error, a slumped arch resembling melted wax. No scolding. The crew dismantles it by torchlight, fingers probing weaknesses like surgeons. Each mistake gets catalogued in muscle memory. The body's ledger never lies. Someone hums the ice hauler's song, palms slapping rhythm on thighs. Two teenagers sync trowel strokes to the beat. Imperceptible precision. Decades later, their hands will move the same way even as their minds forget the tune. You swipe a finger along cured mortar, roughness graded like braille. Thousands of recipes encoded here if you know how to read textures. Rub your thumb raw enough, and maybe you'll decipher a fraction. Moonlight paints the latest wall, its surface scarred with training wheels. Tomorrow's crew will bury these lessons under smooth plaster. Mastery here means erasing your presence, letting the structure stand. As if born from the earth itself, the keeper sleeps standing up back against his best-angled wall. His snores sink to wind, whistling through ventilation shafts. Apprentices bet fig pits on when he'll topple. He never does. You never hear your refrigerator mourn its ancestors. But the hum blends with Persia's icehouse echoes. Modern engineers squint at 3D scans, thermal layers overlapping like ghostly twins. That energy-efficient design on your LED fridge, patented in 2002, but first tested underground 2,400 years prior. Thermal imaging reveals secrets old masters never saw. Buried ice chambers mirror frost patterns in today's sub-zero labs, wind tunnels, and subterranean caves separated by millennia. One researcher absent-mindedly licks a mud core sample, spitting grit, while his spectrometer confirms what taste buds rejected. Archaeologists found a mouse nest woven from ancient insulation wool scraps, still chilled near ice pockets. Your freezer's frost-free tech, less elegant than packed goat hair and shade-grown reeds. Engineers replicate Persian passive cooling in Dubai skyscrapers, saving megawatts while crediting innovative thermal mass systems. No mention of the child's clay toy, found cemented in a Connaught tunnel. Historians still argue whether Yakchals influenced Roman aqueducts or stole secrets from Himalayan glaciers. The debates, hotter than Phoenix in July, ironic, given the topic. A tech CEO funds icehouse replicas using only period tools, then tweets from his air-conditioned Tesla about disruption. Infrared scans at Yazd show walls breathing, expanding microns at night like slumbering giants. Your smart thermostat's precision, matched by dirt-packed channels diverting lunar-cooled breezes. One grad student's thesis claims icehouse builders used starlight reflections to align vents. Her peers mock until someone finds mica fragments in collapsed tunnels. Luxury igloo hotels in Finland call their design revolutionary. Persian influencers carved ice beds for royalty millennia back. Imagine Cleopatra lounging on snow pillows while fan bearers waved palm fronds filled with mountain air. Modern glaciologists playfully chisel their initials into Antarctic ice. Unaware builders etched symbols into subterranean walls as frost prayers. Solar engineers adopt phase change materials mimicking yakchal clay's moisture absorption. They'll never admit it's just fancy dirt. A museum curator displays ice tongs beside a Samsung fridge. The label reads, "Same mission, quieter soldiers." Visitors chuckle until they notice the thermal overlay maps identical gradients stretching centuries apart. That white noise machine you bought, its frequencies mirror wind through Sassanid-era air vents. Researchers debate whether ancient keepers hummed specific notes to test acoustics or just hated working in silence. Your Alexa could sing their ice-hauling chants if you ask nicely, and forgive her pronunciation of yak. MIT students 3D print icehouse models only to find fingerprints in the mortar layers. Turns out their resin mixture replicates porosity of palm-kneaded clay. The team jokes about patent infringement lawsuits from long-dead artisans. One over-caffeinated undergrad mumbles about AI reverse engineering Persia's snow storage algorithms. His professor quietly changes the Wi-Fi password. Commercial freezers now monitor humidity with laser sensors. 5th century engineers used donkey hair strands, stiffening meant add more charcoal. Progress is a circle with Wi-Fi. You grab an ice cube, clinking it like a toast to forgotten minds. The meltwater traces your palm lines, same as the laborers who packed winter into darkness. You trace frost patterns on the tunnel wall, fingertips reading braille left by singers long silenced. The air hums with remembered hymns, diggers, voices once thrumming through clay like cello strings. Your flashlight catches carvings too regular for cracks as spirals, marching downward in perfect thirds. Archaeologists found similar grooves in Cappadocia's underground cities, proof that rhythmic labor predates written music. Shuffle sideways where the passage narrows, shoulder brushing a wall, still shaped by calloused palms. You hear the echo before the memory, workers chanting the Sardi yakchal as shovels bit frozen soil. Their low ha-uum vibrated sternums, and earth alike. A living sonar pinging off unstable strata. Modern tunneling crews use laser-guided sensors. 4th century Persians used vocal harmonics and survived. A mosaic chip glints underfoot, its gold leaf still clinging despite the damp. Conservators argue whether it fell from a wealthy patron's gift or a smuggled love note pressed into mortar. The truths buried deeper than these tunnels, layered under 17 centuries of whispered work songs. Your boot scuffs a half-buried shovel blade, its handle rotted to charcoal pulp. The iron head shows careful repair, marks 5 centuries of edges ground sharper by apprentices who never signed their names. Historians still debate whether the constant singing prevented collapses or just made the backbreaking labor feel lighter. Try humming Bohemian Rhapsody next time you mow the lawn. Primitive dopamine hacking at its finest. Bend to inspect a wall's pockmarks, each dimple spaced precisely 2 finger widths apart. Resonance testing proved these alcoves amplified certain notes. G-sharp minor made the ceiling pebbles dance. Someone obviously had fun between shifts, or maybe boredom births innovation. Field recordings from 1937 capture Tajik miners using similar techniques, their ballads stabilizing mine shafts until dynamite rendered singing obsolete. A chill nags your neck, not from cold, but absence. The digger's ghosts harmonize in your periphery, their vanished overtones leaving space for your breath's white clouds. You mimic the deepest, chant note chest buzzing as the wall thrums back. Modern acousticians would kill for this reverb, though the OSHA violations alone give them hives. Pigeon bones surface in a side tunnel, tiny ribs fused with ceramic shards. X-rays revealed scroll cases inside similar vessels, suggesting foremen sent messages via carrier birds. Or maybe someone just really loved kebabs. The real mystery. No bird skeletons appear in official excavation logs, as if the earth keeps its own secret safe. Your phone light dies, leaving you in a blackness so thick it rings. The Persians worked by touch and tone, shovel clangs, triangulating distance in the void. Rotate slowly, clicking tongue to map the walls. 4 clicks reach your left ear late, exposing a hidden chamber modern surveys missed. Scratch echolocation off humanity's invention timeline. Apparently, we've been plagiarizing bats since 300 BCE. Dust motes swirl where your breath disrupts ancient airflows, each vortex a descendant of sung vibrations. Someone hung wind chimes here, bronze shards found in 2003, still toned to Middle Sea carbon dating. Says 420 C. The original Dark Ages weren't so pitch black after all. A sudden bassoon-like moan shudders through limestone, the ice house settling into its foundations, or protesting your clumsy footsteps. Either way, time to ascend. The last verse of the Sorad fades as you emerge its final note, trapped underground like those long ago breaths, your own exhalation, mists the night air, a duet with ghosts who outwitted gravity and time. You stumble into a valley where snow muffles every sound, including your own surprised gasp. Frozen hoofprints spiral uphill each depression, cradling pebbles placed by long-dead handlers. Records from Tabriz mention 14,000 donkeys needed for a single ice haul, a logistics nightmare solved with rags and blindfolds. A shredded cloth wrapper clings to juniper thorns, faded stitch marks suggesting reuse year after year. Hoof binding wasn't kindness. Muffled steps let smugglers avoid royal tax collectors camped on main roads. Modern sound engineers confirm the technique reduces noise by 79%, though Bose won't admit it in their patents. The trail steepens your boots, sliding where beasts once carved switchbacks into sheer rock. Blindfolds stopped donkeys panicking at cliff edges, or maybe spared them existential vertigo. Historians still bicker over why drivers faced backwards, navigation tactic, spiritual ritual, or the original don't let me die posture. Try it next time you parallel park. Your wheezing breath sinks with imagined bell tones, each metallic ping a lifeline in blizzards. Excavated caravan lists tally bronze bells by weight, heavier ones for lead donkeys, carrying emergency ice reserves. Last summer, hikers found a corroded bell near Ankara, its inscription reading "Shake me, and I'll tell you of storms." Kick adrift, revealing stratified mud from countless slipped saddlebags. Loadmasters layered wool and juniper bark between ice blocks, precursor to bubble wrap without the petty satisfaction of popping. Workers chewed resin like gum, their jawbones found decades later still clenched in habitual mastication. Dentists weep studying the tartar buildup. A ring of stones emerges, too precise for nature's chaos. Here, drivers burned time and dung to melt ice chunks for thirsty animals. Thermography shows heat patterns matching modern campfire safety diagrams, though nobody's replicated the stench on YouTube yet. You trip over a rusted iron ring, part of the pulley system that loaded ice without startling donkeys. Musée de Cluny has a similar relic, mislabeled as medieval torture gear. Curators refuse to correct the placard. The past stays messy. Fingertips graze parallel grooves in a boulder rope, marks worn deep by generations of tethered panic. Recent physics models prove the exact angle prevented tangling during falls, but the donkeys knew this instinctively. Animals still teach engineers humility if we hush enough to listen. Wind whips through the pass, carrying echoes of brays trapped in limestone pores. Males walked uphill's outer edge, their bulk shielding pregnant females from winds that could steal unborn foals. Biologists found similar behavior in Nepalese mule trains last year along, with a renewed respect for illiterate herders. Crimson streaks stain a rock shelf, not blood, but pomegranate juice frozen mid-splash. Drivers marked safe paths with fruit pulp until donkeys developed a taste for sabotage. Switch to bitter wormwood paint in 810 CE, early behavioral science at its most pragmatic. At the summit, a stone platform tilts, its surface scratched with crude donkeys and stick figure men. Some show hands clasped, others gripping coiled whips. Archaeologists call it a workforce ledger. You see the first ever comic strip about bad management. Descent brings warmer air and the ghostly warmth of 10,000 overlapping hoofprints. Persian engineers designed ice vault ramps to match donkeys. Shuffling gait, a cadence your Fitbit misreads as leisurely stroll. Your freezer's auto-defrost feature owes these beasts more than you'll ever admit. Stars blur through moisture stolen from centuries-dead ice. Drivers navigated by aligning specific hoof cracks with constellations. Lyra's curve matching a particular donkey's chipped front shoe. Modern astronomers scoff until their GPS dies during meteor showers. Your boot toe unearths the real treasure, a tiny bronze bell clasped in petrified leather. Toll it once, the note harmonizes with wind howling through the pass. Somewhere below, a shaggy shadow flicks its ears and plods onward into memory's white embrace. The next valley's air singes your throat, all cracked earth where ice once pooled. 10th century droughts forced builders to rewrite their craft, swapping sacred straw mortar for stolen henhouse treasures. Your heel grinds a white shard into dust-knot pottery, but 600-year-old eggshells mixed with desperate hope. Experts confirm royal decrees rationed eggs for construction. Omelets became rebellion. You'll never look at brunch the same. A half-collapsed wall shows iridescent streaks, layers of calcified albumin still defying the sun. Workers whispered it was dragon saliva, until cracks appeared anyway. Contemporary accounts blame a vizier's greedy flock. His chickens laid too many thin-shelled disappointments. Historians still argue whether the switch strengthened walls or just fed the myth of progress. Kneeling, you spot fingerprints in dried mortar, some wider than others, pressed deep. Folk tales mention children smuggled onto work sites, tiny hands better at spreading sticky gloop. Ground-penetrating radar last year found adolescent skeletons mid-wall, their bones encased in egg-white cement, harder than circumstance. No museum exhibits those photos. Wind flings grit at a leaning tower, its surface pocked by millennium-old projectiles. Builders added sheep's blood to mortar as summer deepened, a failed attempt to outstubborn the elements. Your hiking boots stick momentarily to a dark patch nature snicker at expired innovation. A clay tablet fragment bears scratched calculations, ectosond ratios crossed out 12 times. Reverse engineering suggests their final recipe resembled a disastrous souffle. Modern engineers recreated it last summer. The resulting paste smelled like Bergen during a fish market riot. Your canteen's tepid water tastes suspiciously sulfury. Or maybe that's just imagining ancient chicken coops. Workers here drank sesame milk to mask spoiled egg breath, a hack still used by college renters today. Archaeologists found urine flasks labeled emergency mouthwash, the original zero-waste lifestyle. Step over a fissure where centuries of contraction pulled mortar apart. Each gap cradles fossilized feathers, plucked from birds too stressed to lay. Tree ring data shows the drought lasted 47 years, long enough to forget what ice even looked like. You kick a pile of what resembles gray sand until it sticks to your soul like nature's epoxy. Nanoanalysis revealed crushed pearls in later mortar mixes, a conciliatory offering to furious ancestor spirits. No one knows if it worked, but the practice birthed Persia's first counterfeit pearl industry. A child's sandal imprint survives in a rare damp patch, toe dragging, suggesting exhaustion or play. Nearby, a scribble on rock shows stick figure chickens pecking at a crying man. Grad students call this the earliest known workers' comp complaint. HR was not invented yet. The path climbs toward jagged hills, their slopes reshaped by mudslide after preventable mudslide. Builders here angled walls against prevailing winds, then angled again when the winds changed spitefully. Meteorology hadn't invented the concept of worst-case scenario yet. Shout into a crevice, your echo returns layered with higher pitches. Acoustic surveys prove these tunnels trapped voices, and possibly the complaints of hens denied nest boxes. Someone hung a wind chime here last month, its bamboo tubes clattering like beak strikes on iron gates. Find a rusted scoop buried in ash, its handle wrapped in rotted silk. Inventory lists from Shiraz describe ice masters trading silk scraps for eggshells, early bartering that skirted royal taxes. Fashion's always been collateral damage in survival. At the valley's edge, a rebuilt section glares with modern concrete, the only patch undisturbed by beetles. Preservationists tried staying true to methods in 1983 until the egg substitute stank up 6 city blocks. Authenticity has its limits. Your shadow stretches across 2 eras, 1 foot in dusty innovation, the other in climate denial. Workers here sang laments to confused chickens as they mixed mortar. Ethnomusicologists recreated the tunes, which charted briefly on Spotify's experimental folk playlist. A weathered ledger lists 93 volunteer hens, all with names like Snowplume and Dawn Yoker. Tax records show exemptions for chicken farmers near ice houses, and hush money paid to zoning officials. The more things change, sunset bleeds across fractured aqueducts, their egg-white grout now flaking like ancient dandruff. You pocket a crumbling lump that tingles against your skin. Last month, a biochemist found dormant yeast in similar samples, brewing a sour ale that tastes like regret and ingenuity. Turn back as stars prick the sky's black hide. Somewhere behind you, a whispered apology drifts over the ruins, builders begging forgiveness from straw mortar ghosts. Your local supermarket eggs rattle in protest as you walk away. SHHH, history's listening. Moonlight puddles where ice once stood, your flashlight beam catching ghostly swirls in empty chambers. 19th century train tracks scar the valley floor, rusted iron veins, pumping industrial cold into Persia's heart. You step over a twisted rail benchmark of progress that killed quieter miracles. British merchants imported Boston ice to Mumbai by 1860, undercutting local prices with glacial theft. Workers here called it the White Death, their hands idle as foreign frost melted in Noble's wine. Historians still argue whether camel caravans could have competed if only someone had hugged a locomotive. Kick a crumbling brick stamped with Farsi script, Yakchul 23, bleeding into rust stains. The last keeper's journal describes steam whistles echoing through tunnels, a mechanical wolf howling at clay walls. His final entry, a sketch of ice cubes wearing tiny British hats, crouched to touch powder-fine residue, centuries of compacted cold, now just chalky regret. Thermal maps show abandoned vaults sweating their final chill. In 1904, same year Persia discovered refrigeration patents existed. Ironies, a dish best served frozen. Wind whistles through a dynamite-blasted arch, colonial crews demolished tunnels for railroad gravel. Local legends claim explosives refused to detonate until workers splashed goat blood on the fuses. Safety standards were flexible. Your boot sinks into ashy mud where glaciers once groaned. Ground scans reveal a child's copper bracelet mid-collapse, layer clasped around nothing but nitrogen bubbles. Someone's daughter became part of the thaw, her braids preserved in meltwater for 3 springs. A ledger page clings to thornbush, column after column of zeros, where ice weights once climbed. The Qajar dynasty tried exporting royal snow via cursed camels, every shipment arriving as warm as betrayal. Diplomacy, icebergs faster than you'd think. Pry open a maintenance hatch warped by decades of neglect. Cockroaches scuttle over pressure gauges frozen at hopeless. Engineers installed these to monitor decline, then fled when needles kept dipping lower. Data hurts sometimes. Spotlight a mosaic fragment, blue tiles depicting snow leopards stalking abstract ice blocks. Artisans swapped wages for scrap ceramics. When royal funds froze, their masterpiece, now a jigsaw puzzle for rats. Breathe deep and catch a phantom sting, menthol sharpness lingering like a forgotten promise. Chemists identified residual ammonium chloride in the walls, an ancient coolant that outlived its inventors. Your lungs taste 200 years of stopgap solutions. Kneel beside a seepage stain shaped like a teardrop. Last year's core samples proved the final ice chunk dissolved during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cold War meets older Cold Wars. Coincidence shops at the same existential mall. A crushed brass horn glints underfoot. Its engraved motto reads, "Loudness conquers." Salesmen from Berlin sold these to icehouse tenders, guaranteed to scare off progress. Reviews were mixed. Tug your collar against a draft that isn't there. Vestigial habit from vaults that once numbed fingertips. Workers developed arthritis as insulation failed, their knuckles swelling like rotten plums. The foreman called it winter's pension plan. Climb a slope of discarded wool insulation, moth-eaten fibers clutching your ankles like desperate suitors. Merchants stockpiled this before realizing machine-made ice needs no blankets, just coal and collective amnesia. Find a porcelain teacup, half buried in scree, gold rim still bright against cracked glaze. Icehouse accountants sipped quince tea here while writing termination notices, sweetness masking the aftertaste. Examine pillar scars where steam condensers were hastily bolted, then hastily ripped out. Corporate ledgers list these as modernization expenses. The receipts smell like burnt hair and tax evasion. A poster fragment shows a smiling family beside an icebox, Farsi text, crowing progress never melts. The model's frozen grin took 7 takes to achieve. Nobody mentioned the photographer's chilblains. Sunrise stains the ruins peach your shadow, stretching thin across eroded ramps. Thermal imaging last week detected one stubborn pocket of cold, a 12-inch cube fighting entropy beneath your feet. You walk away faster than science expects. Gravel crunches like stale sugar beneath your boots. Flashlight sweeping across pits where frost once nested. That phantom cold beneath your feet. 63 years gone according to thermochronology data. But your neck hairs still prickle like it's judging you. You pass a Soviet-era survey marker, stamped Abe Yer, Yekate, Enyepe, Ige, Ade Ye En, unsuitable for use. Their engineers spent 3 winters here mapping thermal anomalies for missile silos. All they found: a mouse skeleton curled around a 2,000-year-old date pit. Cold War planners hated this one weird trick. Wipe dust from a wall etched with overlapping dates. Qajar dynasty tax records bleeding into Brezhnev's 5-year plans. Archaeologists found 6 ox femurs arranged here in perfect north-south alignment. Some ice age feng shui lost to translation. The foreman's report called it avian interference. Kick and aluminum can labeled coca chill TM in Farsi. 70s era bootleg soda from Tehran's first ice factory. Rumor says they added crushed emeralds for color, then switched to windshield glass after shareholders complained. Historians still argue whether failed frost empires taste better with caramel notes. Step into a chamber where echoes die mid-yawn. Acoustic foam peeling off walls like dead skin. Audio engineers tested concert hall designs here in 94 until low C-sharp frequencies, cracked a support beam. Brahms' lullaby nearly became a murder weapon. Your light glints off a tangle of copper wire, nest of pre-revolutionary temperature sensors, fused into abstract art. Technicians called these silence meters, though they only ever screamed failure. Modern replicas sell as lamps in Frankfurt boutique hotels, €90 a pop. Breathe in asbestos and regret. 80s renovation crews lined these tunnels with carcinogenic insulation, then abandoned the project when their coffee thermos lids started warping. Safety third, as they say in the demo biz. Spot a faded mural of camels hauling ice blocks toward neon skyscrapers. Artist's vision of progress from 1969. The paint contains traces of melted permafrost samples, ironic preservation via chemical betrayal. Gallery curators would lick these walls if allowed. Unearth a vinyl record titled Yakchal Ambient Vol. 3. Field recordings of dripping ice from 72. Audiophiles swear it cures insomnia, though the sobbing cello overdub might help. Climate sensors in your pack start beeping. Air moisture spikes as you disturb a sealed alcove. 1,400 years later, the walls still remember how to make their own weather. Your forehead sweats, while your feet numb biometric chaos written in goosebumps. Trip over a concrete barrier, marked site of fatal humility. Tourist stunt from 2008. Some influencer tried meditating inside a replica ice vault, forgot the door wasn't a metaphor. Comments section wrote his epitaph in cryogenic emojis. Find a pristine snow globe under debris. Tehran's skyline encased in polymer frost. Shake it and watch microplastics masquerade as nostalgia. Gift shop archaeologists will fight over this in 2050, while actual glaciers cough up parking meters. A patch of wall feels suspiciously smooth. Palm prints preserved in bioremediate concrete. Preservationists genetically tweaked bacteria to eat radiation. Here accidentally created microbial art that outshines the Ice Age originals. Nature finds a way. Moonlight leaks through a dynamite hole shaped like Nader Shah's profile. Pure coincidence, according to embarrassed demolitionists. Dew forms icicles along the edges, brief miracles, sweating their own obsolescence. Your flashlight dies as you exit. Cell phone glow, revealing an Arabic graffiti tag. ICE Daddy was here 2003. Beneath it, fresh scratch marks in the shape of refrigerator schematics. The circle of frostbite remains unbroken. Breathe deep air tastes of diesel and abandoned hypotheses. Somewhere beneath your blistered soles, 12 tons of epoxy. Resin preserve the void where magic once hibernated. Engineers visit not to study, but to remember how small progress feels in a 3,000-year shadow. You shuffle through tunnels that drink your flashlight's glow, palm brushing walls, still sweating ancient cold. The air smells of goat hair, ropes long dissolved, and that clingy odor of neglect even epoxy resin can't hide. Somewhere ahead, a faint shuffling like moth wings against glass. Round a corner into residual frostbite, there he stands, soles wrapped in rags worn thinner than his patience. His palms trace cracks in the clay calluses, memorizing stress points older than his grandfather's grandfather. Every dawn this summer, he's come to outstubborn entropy itself. Watch him kneel by a Soviet survey marker, its Cyrillic warnings flaked to ghosts. He spits on Brezhnev's dead protocols. 1 ruble says his spit freezes before hitting the ground. You'd lose. A rusted thermos rolls underfoot, Coca-Chill logo peeling like sunburned skin. He kicks it into the same alcove where archaeologists found those ox bones, aligned like compass needles. 3rd time this week. Some traditions die harder than ice. His thumb finds a patch of bioremediate concrete, microbial art blooming where gamma rays once partied. Pretty tumors, he mutters, knowing engineered bacteria now devour radiation faster than his grandsons devour saffron ice cream. Progress wears strange makeup here. The wall sweats a slow confession against his shoulder. Historians still argue whether these tunnels hummed with work songs or just the whimper of frozen knuckles, his own hummed tune, half lullaby, half warning, vibrates through 13th century mortar. You feel it in your molars. He unwraps wool strips from a jug water, sloshing like liquid twilight, pouring it along the floor slope, an old trick to test for new fissures. The stream hesitates, then darts left like a scorpion avoiding moonlight. His snort echoes. Even the wet hates summer. A draft lifts his shirt collar. Phantom breath of wind towers that quit centuries back. You catch the stink of diesel from above. Some UN preservation teams, generators chugging through their last funding cycle. His nostrils flare. Tourists. He presses a wristwatch to the wall, analog hands ticking off seconds until the next core, sample extraction. The glass fogs. Somewhere in Zurich, a grad student's sensors record this stolen thermal hiccup as ambient fluctuation. Thesis, fodder sweatsops. His boot crunches something, plastic shards from that influencer's snow globe debacle. He pockets a crescent of faux ice good for scamming gullible antiquities dealers later. Capitalism always licks the plate clean. Near the chamber where Brahms almost murdered everyone, he pauses. C-sharp still haunts the acoustics, your fillings twinge. He whistles 3 notes that clash and the echo harmonizes. An accident, a leftover from the digger's vibration hymns. Your goosebumps vote yes. He finds the child's clay toy fused to the floor, a goat with melted legs. Archaeologists left it here like a sacrificial offering. He flicks its lopsided head. It rocks without rhythm. Stupid thing. Leaves it rocking at the deepest crack where moonlight gives up. He unrolls felt pads from his satchel, stuffs them into gaps with a curved tool blackened by generations of palm oil. The fibers puff up temporary lungs for a suffocating vault. Your phone light catches his wedding band, gold worn thin as cirrus clouds. Marriage to cold, outlasted flesh vows. His wife's name whispers through a wall vent, or maybe that's your tinnitus singing along. He checks his watch again, 14 minutes until sunrise. From his pocket, waxy paper, holding a sugar cube stale as pyramid relics. Places it where the morning's first heat will strike. A petty victory feast for the ants. As shadows shrink behind him, he presses both hands to the trembling wall. The ice maker's song rasps through his teeth, a scale descending into basement registers. Somewhere beneath you microbes pause their radioactive banquet. His laugh startles a rat. Sing louder, old man, maybe the satellites will hear. But the satellites are busy counting oil spills. His breath fogs the silence between failed empires. He exits as light claws through dynamite-cut holes. Nader Shah's accidental profile leaking dawn. The sugar cube hasn't moved yet. Next time, he lies to the sweat on his neck. Halfway up the access ramp he pauses. The wall behind him exhales, one last damp sigh against the sensors. Modern engineers will call it efflorescence. He calls it surrender. At the surface, he kicks a Coke bottle into the archaeologist's trench. Let those pasty academics wrestle with 21st century litter. His sandals crunch across gravel made from dead yakchal walls. The circle grinds onwards. Turning east, he watches Tehran's smog blush with sunrise. Somewhere under those fumes, a factory freezes ice cream using his ancestors' thermal math. He spits toward the haze, a tiny comet against corporate refrigeration. Your phone dies as his shadow dissolves into light. All that remains, a hum in the back molars, and the certainty that tomorrow's heat will taste like borrowed time. You brush dust from a wall fissure, your fingertip catching on grooves too small for grown hands. The flashlight reveals tiny crescents pressed into drying clay, a child's fingerprint immortalized in a repair job. Or not a child. Archaeologists found hundreds like these, adult palm prints scaled down by malnourishment or youth. Theories bubble like tar pits. A resin-caked shard winks underfoot. You pocket it. Later lab tests will show mulberry fibers mixed with the clay. Women's work. Maybe. 6th century tax ledgers from Susa list. Ice house. Repair crews as households, not individuals. Convenient way to scrub names from history, like erasing chalk diagrams from a widow's door. You squeeze through a crack where the ceiling dips, hem of your shirt snagging on a rusted nail. 19th century British explorers drilled here searching for the architect king's frozen treasury. Instead, they found a mummified, mouse-clutching straw insulation. The Natural History Museum still displays it, labeled Rodentia laboriosa. Colonialism's punchlines write themselves. Cool air licks your neck, residual chill from a storage chamber below. Your phone's light bounces off something unnatural. Bent metal no, a hairpin. Ottoman era, according to tarnish patterns. Why here, a worker's lost trinket, a smuggler's dropped loot. Or someone marking their presence in this sausage fest of historical credit. The wall opposite sweats a slow map of cracks. You press your ear to damp clay decades of acoustics flattening into white noise, but there, a rhythmic scrape. Some overworked grad student digging through archives, or the ghostly drag of a woolen skirt hem. Wishful thinking's the duct tape of archaeology. Your knee smashes into a low stone. Cursing, you kick it only to freeze. The rock rolls aside, revealing a cavity stuffed with reed parchment. The fragment disintegrates as you lift it, modern air assassinating words older than Canterbury tailies. 2 legible lines remain. South wall requires buttressing per Anahita's diagram, and straw quotas insufficient for women's section. Historians still argue whether Anahita commanded builders or just brewed their morning tea. Meanwhile, the Metropolitan's Persian wing displays a master engineer's tablet covered in loaf recipes. Bias bakes itself into the artifacts. A draft carries the scent of jasmine. Impossible this deep underground. You track it to a collapsed alcove. Behind rubble, a ceramic vial rolls into view. Inside, saffron threads and a lock of silver hair. Radiocarbon dating will later confirm the strands match female remains found 3 kilometers east. Coincidence makes a flimsy alibi. Your light dies, plunging you into ink. When it sputters back, the hairpin's gone, probably rolled into some crevice. Probably. You check your pockets twice. A muffled clang echoes overhead, modern boots on colonial-era scaffolding. Preservation's teams always start early. Their hydraulic lifts whine like displeased camels. You smirk, imagining their horror if they found your contraband clay shard. Academia thrives on ownership tantrums. The crack widens under your probing, sudden surrender, revealing a niche. Inside, a child's doll missing its head. Or not a doll. The body's shaped like a Yakshal Tower miniature, air vents carved into its sides. Someone's teaching aid. A votive offering. Proof girls learned engineering through play. Dust coats your tongue as you swallow the possibilities. Footsteps approach time to leave. You slip the clay toy into your bag, dislodging a beetle fossilized in salt. It crumbles against your shoe. History hates being moved. Sunlight stabs through the exit as you emerge. Somewhere in Casvin, a museum guard drinks tea beside a display of anonymous artisan tools. She doesn't notice the tiny fingerprints on a mortar mixer's handle or chooses to ignore them. Job security's thicker than legacy. Your Uber driver blasts Europop, annihilating the ice house's last whispers. You lean back, fingertips tracing the doll's absent face. Modern feminists would lionize her if they could pronounce her name. The tires hit a pothole, your head bumps the window. Some defeats transcend centuries. As the city swallows the horizon, your phone dings. The lab results. Mulberry fibers in the clay confirm female. Laborers strengthened mixtures with clothing scraps. You delete the email. Let tenured vultures fight over peer review. You've got a headless doll to repatriate. Rain taps the windshield, each drop a tiny rebellion against desert logic. The driver complains about traffic. You hum 3 notes, and the world hums back. Rain streaks the taxi window like hurried hieroglyphs, each droplet distorting streetlights into wavering halos. Your thumb rubs the doll's headless torso. Its miniature yakshel curves familiar as a childhood toy or a blueprint. Engineers still trip over that 17-degree slope on north walls, the exact angle baffling grad students more than libertarianism. You abandon the cab near a construction site, modern apartments devouring old merchant quarters. A backhoe's claw hangs mid-swing, revealing jagged mud brick beneath concrete. The wall slants northward, 17 degrees. Always, squatting, you press a protractor against ancient masonry, ignoring hard hats, yelling in Farsi. The numbers don't lie. Archaeologists found identical angles at 53 sites across Iran. Coincidence needs better math. Wind funnels through the gap, whining like a tea kettle left too long. Ottoman records mention ice houses staying cold longer if built near bakeries. Experts think residual heat from ovens somehow nope. That theory melted faster than a saffron sherbet. Your flashlight catches striations in the mortar, diagonal grooves, aligned like dunes. 17th century Portuguese maps labeled these devil's fingerprints. Charming. A 1998 dig near Yazd uncovered similar patterns under UV light, likely battle banners painted by board guards. History's doodle pad. You chip a clay sample, pocketing it beside the doll. Later analysis will show crushed oyster shells mixed with pomegranate rinds. Sound insulation. Snack stash. Your thesis advisor would call it ritual residue and order more grant money. The slope taunts you. Modern engineers ran wind tunnel tests last year. Lasers and arrogance aimed to crack the code. Turns out 17 degrees splits summer winds into 2 streams, one cooling the vault, one deflecting solar heat. A+ for Mother Nature, F for human ego. A workman's radio blares stadium cheers, the sound bouncing off the ancient wall. Distorted echoes mimic the scrape of ice blocks against sled runners. Synchronicities, a prankster in steel-toed boots. You retreat to a shadowed alcove, avoiding foreman's glares. Ibn Battuta described ice sellers chanting while laying straw insulation. First layer for hunger, second for thirst, third for the manuscript rips off there. Typical, rain soaks your collar as you cross the street. Cafe steam fogs the window of a rug shop where a hanging Kaleem mirrors the fractal brick patterns. A coincidence? Ask the weaver. She's dead. 4 centuries dead. Your tea arrives with a biscuit resembling a yakshel dome. You wink at the waiter. He doesn't notice. Humor fossilizes faster than pottery. Stale crumbs scatter as you split the cookie. No secret scroll inside, just cardamom. Historians still argue whether the slope was genius or desperation. Drought tablets from Persepolis mention the year we rebuilt Leaning. Leaning how much? Conveniently illegible. Meanwhile, physicists calculate a 0.2% efficiency boost at 17 degrees. Worthier than TikTok fame. Dusk bleeds across the city as you enter a parking garage. Your sneakers squeak like unlubricated sled runners. Another echo. Sublevel 3's support beams slant north. 17 degrees. The architect's little joke. Homage. Plagiarism lawsuit pending. Your phone light reveals graffiti. A stick figure carting ice blocks. Someone's added speech bubbles make yakchals great again. You snort, then freeze. The figure wears a skirt. Sudden headlights erase the mural tires screeching like a too-dry quill. Security chases you out, oblivious to history, mocking them in real time. The doll digs into your ribcage as you run. On the metro, a toddler points at your bag. Broke, she announces, touching her own head. Her mother apologizes, but the girl's right. All the best teachers are under 3 feet tall. You disembark at a library closed for renovation. The night guard recognizes your bribe smile. 5 minutes, he warns. You beeline for the municipal blueprints, comparing sewer tunnels to ice house layouts. 43 matches. Cities build their skeletons the same way. The guard coughs. You photograph a 1923 waterworks diagram, its angles suspiciously familiar. 17 degrees northward. For drainage, claims the sideways text. Sure, drainage. And the Sistine Chapel's just a ceiling. Outside, constellations shiver behind smog. 3rd century star maps aligned with yakchal air shafts. An X beside the North Star, or maybe someone spilled lentil soup. Carbon dating's allergic to whimsy. Your apartment welcomes you with mildew and Wi-Fi. The doll stares emptily from your desk. You rotate it, 17-degree base and all. A girl's toy or apprenticeship certificate. Mental note, check for hidden compartments. Keyboard clicks drown the ticking clock. Search results blur. 17 degrees in pre-Islamic architect. Qajar ice tariffs. Mud brick, compressive strength. Tabs multiply like weevils in flour. A forum post snags you. An amateur historian claiming the angle matches Orion's sickle. You facepalm. So did 3 pharaohs and a MySpace influencer. Then you notice the username. The screen flickers, your tea's gone cold. Somewhere, a desert wind slips through a crack in modernity, carrying the faintest taste of apricot ice. The modem's hum syncs with your pulse as Anahita 91 profile loads, a desert silhouette against a pixelated Orion. Her last post, satellite coordinates beside a winking emoji. Google Earth reveals a half-buried archway 200 miles northeast. Your student debt whimpers. The rental car's GPS chirps directions in a cheerful robot Farsi. Dawn finds you squinting at cracked mud bricks, their curves mirroring both icehouse vaults and Sassanid palace gates. The Tak Kasra's shadow once stretched here, Persia's grandest arch, until Mongol torches reduced it to a moonlit whisper. Archaeologists found icehouse mortar recipes in the same scrolls describing palace foundations. Ancient LinkedIn connections. You kneel pressing your palm into a worn indentation where an architect's hand once braced. The angle matches icehouse worker diagrams, callous grooves aligned. A donkey brays in the distance. Its ancestors hauled ice blocks and palace limestone. Some family traditions stick. Sunlight bleaches the ruins. Your water bottle sweats onto a carving of twin arches, one curving like a yakchal dome, the other flaring like a royal staircase. Museum labels call it decorative. The chisel marks suggest trial and error, architects stealing techniques between coffee breaks. Wind funnels through the arch, humming the same pitch as icehouse airflow. Your phone drops signal. Perfect. 8th century poets wrote about this sound, claiming it taught birds to build nests. Or was that the opium talking? A scarab beetle marches across your notebook, leaving hieroglyphic tracks in the dust. You flick it gently. It cartwheels lands on a crumbled inscription. For the glory of the rest is lichen. Glory's got a half-life shorter than yogurt. Historians still argue whether icehouse engineers dined with palace architects or just copied each other's homework. Tax records show both guilds buying the same type of donkey fodder. Circumstantial evidence or ancient Uber Eats. You trace a zigzag groove in the brickwork, identical to insulation patterns in yakchal walls. Thermal imaging last year proved these gaps stabilized palace temperatures by 2 degrees. Take that, Alexandria. A tour group approaches, selfie sticks aloft. You become a rock with a notebook. Their guide explains the arch's curve mathematically. Like the Shawnee Maze, most elegant verse. Everyone nods. You know better, it's the exact arc of an ice sled's upturned edge. Sunset stains the bricks blood orange. Sassanid masons mixed donkey blood into their mortar for luck. Modern engineers tried replicating it. Turns out hemoglobin bonds better with clay than Portland cement. OSHA wasn't amused. Your rental car won't start. The mechanic's diagnosis. Sand in places sand shouldn't go. Classic. As he tinkers, you notice his shop's roof curves like a mini yakchal. Coincidence? His grandfather was a brickmaker. The desert recycles ideas like clay. Back in your hotel, you compare palace blueprints to icehouse diagrams, overlaying them on grimy windows. The matches shimmer like mirages. An unknown scribe doodled both structures on a single parchment fragment, now displayed in Tehran under bulletproof glass. Cafeteria trays hold more respect. Nightmares come an army of architects and ice cutters debating over lukewarm tea. Their voices dissolve into wind. You wake clutching the doll, its angle imprinting your palm. Downstairs, the concierge hums while mopping. The tune mirrors Ibn Battuta's ice cellar chant. At breakfast, your pita bread forms a perfect arch. You snap a photo. Hashtag unintentional design. 3 likes, all from bot accounts. The fig jam tastes like disappointment and carob. Digging through satellite images, you spot another ruin, ice house walls merging with palace foundations. Modern apartments box it in their balconies, jutting like broken teeth. Developers labeled it quaint collapse. Zoning boards smell condos. The flight home vibrates like a poorly tuned canot. Turbulence knocks your tea sideways. It arcs into the seatback, tray 17 degrees precisely. Liquid engineering. Your neighbor snores through the miracle. Customs agents confiscate the doll. No soil samples, they shrug. You nearly protest. It's a historical artifact. Then recall the smuggler who tried exporting Persepolis in his sock. Priorities. Home's humid embrace feels foreign. Your shower stall's curved rod suddenly seems suspicious, a stainless steel echo of desert genius. You measure the angle, 14 degrees, close enough for government work. The forum buzzes overnight. Anahita91 shared your overlays, crediting some sleep-deprived foreigner. Comments fluctuate between awe and Photoshop skills. Meh, a user named Brick Master for Life insists aliens helped the Sassanids. His profile picks a potato. Rain returns, pelting your window like tossed quartz. You sketch arches until dawn, each stroke blurring past and present. The doll's twin appears on eBay. Shipping cost, triple the bid. History's toll booth never sleeps. Your thesis draft auto-saves as the power flickers. Modern grid meets ancient inverter. Somewhere, a Yakchal keeper laughs through cracked lips. His breath, Frosting. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter fans, spinning in homage. You tongue the word yak like ice melting, its sharp consonants pricking your palate colder than any freezer hum. That Persian root birthed sorbet through Arabic sorbetti. The same frozen treat crusaders hauled home alongside grudges and syphilis. Modern engineers prefer vapor compression cycle, a clinical mouthful where poetry choked on graph paper. Rain streaks your window, each droplet mapping cannot courses down fogged glass. You tap thermal mass into the thesis, then hesitate. Sasanian builders called it Kazanayak, treasure of ice. Same term described royal gem vaults, cold and jewels, equally precious beneath the desert's gold glare. Your laptop screen fizzes. Iran's National Library, digitizing scrolls too fragile for touch. Pixelated handwriting reveals ice house invoices, 20 donkey loads of night snow paid in cinnamon sticks. Archaeologists found pepper flakes cemented in Yakchal walls, spice smuggling, or clumsy breakfasts. A notification pings, Brickmaster 4 life messages. Check Sumerian ice tablets. You humor him. Turns out Ur's records mention mountain breath stores, possible misunderstood ice houses. Historians still argue whether terms migrated across empires, or if every culture independently discovered brain freeze. Glacier researchers Skype in their lab, coats clashing with your unwashed hoodie. Persian ice conductivity matches Antarctic samples. They beam. You nod, mentally picturing Shah Abbas gnawing a 10,000-year-old popsicle. Their thermal graphs mirror your Yakchul sketches, centuries folded like origami. Midnight coffee tastes like liquefied archives. You mouth the word anbar, Persian for vault, feeling its gravelly descent from tongue to throat. English stole it for arsenal and anchor. Cold storage and war, same linguistic roots. Humans really know their priorities. The library bot suggests a thesis title, Thermal Vernacular in Cross-Cultural Contexts. You counter with how ice invented small talk. Draft 3 deletes itself in protest. Wind howls through the AC vent, a poor imitation of Yakchul air shafts. Thermal camera reveals your breath's chilly plume exactly 14 degrees Celsius. Validation. You text the reading to Anahita91. She replies with a snowflake emoji. Progress. A museum catalog arrives, pages scented with Xerox toner and regret. Page 42 shows a Safavid ice shovel nearly identical to your landlord's snow pusher. Both have that telltale 17-degree curve. Innovation's just plagiarism with better lighting. Your professor's red pen strikes poetic from the draft. Margin note. Stop humanizing thermodynamics. You add 3 more metaphors. Viscosity deserves love too. Rain morphs to sleet, nature's PowerPoint transition. Frozen droplets cling to the fire escape, mimicking wool insulation on ice blocks. Even weather remembers old tricks. Your breath fogs the window, an ephemeral anbar. Dawn cracks open the sky. You drift through grocery aisles, fingers brushing freezer doors. Their hum harmonizes with a memory of desert winds funneling through Yakchul towers. The clientele seems less impressed. A toddler points at your mittens. Yak, yak, she babbles. Her mother corrects. Ice, sweetie. You pocket the recorder. Dissertation gold. The deli clerk eyes you, hoagie in one hand, history in the other. Sirens wail past, their Doppler effect warping into ice hauler chants. By the 6th loop, you're translating traffic noise into polysyllabics. Sleep deprivation, or latent linguistic superpowers. The doll's eBay listing ends. Winning bid, $47. $50 from user Yakchul fanatic. Postal tracking shows it circling Isfahan. Full circle. You celebrate with pistachio ice cream, stirring cinnamon into the melt like a proper Safavid. Pages scatter as you finally nap, primary sources pillow against speculative tangents. In dreams, cuneiform letters frost over. A clay tablet whispers, conjugate the verb to chill. Alarm blares. Thesis defense in 6 hours. You practice explaining thermal inertia to a rubber plant. Its leaves perk up, better response than most panels give. Street signs blur into symbolic logic. Yield resembles a cannot diagram stop, echoes ice block dimensions. Cities are just unreadable textbooks. A honk yanks you back. Post-presentation whiskey burns cleaner than expected. Committee called your work idiosyncratic and surprisingly rigorous. Academic, for we tolerated the jokes. Anahita 91 tweet goes viral. Told you the arches mattered. Midnight finds you rewatching Yakchul docs sound off, captions scrambling. The word insulation flickers as island nation. Poetic, if inaccurate. You let the error linger. Fridge light dies. Pitch darkness cradles expired yogurt. Modern Yakchul failure. Your phone torch reveals freezer frost patterns, matching Pathro's drainage systems. You salute the mold. Rain resumes its rhythm syncs with a 1982 lecture on Persian loanwords. The professor's voice crackles through YouTube. Language freezes time. Your pen hovers. Thesis, epigraph located. Humidity warps the dictionary's spine. Pages buckling into miniature arches. Etymology meets entropy. You press the book flat, smoothing civilizations beneath a coffee-stained palm. You kneel in dust fine as powdered bone, your brush revealing goat hair, ropes coiled like sleeping snakes, 43 strands per braid, exact count matching Zoroastrian temple records from 412 CE. The child's clay camel crumbles at your touch, its back arched to carry imaginary frost. Historians still argue whether toys snuck into storage pits, or if young hands hauled ice alongside adults. Your trowel scrapes something gritty, salt crusts, preserving donkey hoofprints from a midnight delivery. Thermal imaging shows ghostly rectangles beneath you, vanished ice blocks, leaving mineral shadows. A grad student whistles their melody, accidentally matching Ottoman ice carrier chants. Coincidence? You pocket the tuneless evidence. Sunset stains the dig site bloody. One volunteer finds fingernail grooves in a collapsed wall, 16th century complaints etched in mud. Emergency, onion soup insulation. Fringe theorists swear they've decoded frostbite therapy recipes, scrawled beneath layers of hydraulic mortar. 3 AM coffee tastes like twice-baked artifacts. The team debates labeling conventions, arguing over ceremonial chamber versus wine fridge for the afterlife. Chicago Manual of Style never covered Persian icehouse sarcasm. LiDAR reveals a spiral pattern underfoot, 12 concentric circles descending into darkness. Minuscule insect casings pepper each layer, possibly intentional insulation. Modern mylar blankets use similar air pocket principles. Innovations just plagiarism with better PR. Wind hisses through the dig, snatching a sketchbook page. Your chase ends at a half-buried staircase, steps worn smooth by frozen sandals. Phantom coolness licks your ankles, or maybe neuropathy from crouching. The lab tent glows like a paper lantern. Scans prove the toy camel once held crushed mint leaves, proto mojitos for affluent toddlers. Colleagues roll their eyes. You update the grant proposal anyway. Dawn exposes a ledger's corner poking from debris. Moonlight budgeting. Pages list ice quotas for royal feasts. One entry demanding unaltered snow for the vizier's nosebleeds. Priorities preserved. Footsteps echo where vaults once hummed. Your boot kicks a rusted bell, its clapper ossified by rust. Tenders rang these during sandstorms. Or, so claims a moldy Seljuk travelogue. Truth rots quieter than fiction. A photographer's flash ignites the ceiling, revealing handprint smudges above storage niches. 6 palms, 8 fingers, a thumbprint doubled by time. Your own grip fits the spaces. Muscle memory outlives empires. You miss the museum's humidity controls. Here, artifacts desiccate within hours, a comb's teeth curling like burnt film. Conservators arrive with foam and size. The 21st century's answer to camel wool shrouds. Final survey day. Drones map checkerboard foundations, abandoned when railroads promised faster cold. Satellite views show modern ice factories downstream, built atop cannot ghost streams. Progress wears inheritance like a borrowed coat. Packing unearths a petrified orange peel stuck where a wall met floor. Frozen dessert garnish, ritual offering. Paperwork labels it sample 291. Be poetry hates bureaucracy. The flight home vibrates through your spine. Turbulence mimics camel gates. Or maybe you've inhaled too much antiquity. Customs agents squint at your luggage. Clay fragments wrapped in socks. No one believes academic goodwill anymore. Rain greets your return, washing desert grit into storm drains. Your apartment freezer hums, its vibration pattern mirroring the dig site's last scan. You place the toy camel beside ice trays, ancestors whispering to appliances. Sleep comes fitfully. Dreams replay brushstrokes, uncovering endless sand, each grain a shattered date pit from workers' lunches. An ant drags a frost flake into darkness, its 6-legged pilgrimage eternal. Morning light exposes dust layers on your desk, modern stratigraphy. The report deadline looms. You type conclusion, then backspace. Some stories crumble when exposed to air. Archaeology texts preach closure. You know better. Those vaults cradled winter until metal and steam cheated the desert, yet left no epitaph. Silence outlasts even cold. The child's clay camel stares from your shelf, its unfired body sweating in humidity. You smear the meltwater across a notebook, watching ancient and modern dampness merge. Wind riffles manuscript pages, freezing your knuckles. Computers crash, pens skip. Still, you transcribe the donkey hoof salt crusts letter by crumbling letter. Scholars declare the site exhausted. You dream of the bell's lost clapper and the song it failed to carry. Final box shipped. Your label reads Storage Unit J7, 12th century insulation, resting beside climate control warnings. Ironies, a patient scribe. Visitors ask about grandeur. You show them the fingernail grooves, etched by someone who shaped eternity, then clocked out for lunch. The desert reclaims the trenches before your paper publishes. Sand fills your footsteps, each print a fleeting ice house. Last page, last period. You save the file, letting pixels shoulder what stones cannot. A notification pings, brick master for life, liked your tweet about onion soup insulation. Academia's new frontier. Your fridge light flickers, then dies. Darkness unspools like cannot tunnels. Frost fumes spiral upward, branding the air with transient constellations. Dawn breaks, veiling the night's work in gilded denial. Some truths only breathe underground. Your fingers trace salt-crusted grooves in the dirt, donkey hoofprints, fossilized by centuries of thirst. The desert breathes through fractured walls, exhaling memories of frost into humid air. That broken toy camel sits on your desk now, its lopsided grin warping in the glow of a fridge light. You wonder if its child maker ever tasted snow or just packed it like prayer into sun-scorched bricks. Lab results confirmed the mint leaves, crushed beneath tiny palms arranging ice like stolen jewels. Some nights, your freezer's hum resembles Farasi caravan bells, or maybe exhaustion reshapes ordinary sounds. Maps show ice factories, downstream glass towers swallowing cannot groundwater. You picture engineers from both eras passing in the dark, carrying thermoses and ledgers, debating insulation over shared dates. Rain taps your windows, a rhythm mismatched with desert cadence. Clay fragments rest in acid-free boxes, still shrinking imperceptibly. Conservators whisper about entropy like it's solvable. You've seen enough salt-cracked pottery to know everything unravels given time and air. The final report gathers pixel dust on your screen. Colleagues demand conclusions. You fold the word maybe into every paragraph. Sleep blurs the toy camel's silhouette, its frozen cargo now due on your whiskey glass. Dreams return you to buried stairs, each step colder than the last. Your flashlight dies in the depths, darkness, absolving dates and dynasties. Morning finds your palm pressed against the window pane, echoing those ghostly prints above the ice niches. Heat rises, condensation writes forgotten names. You switch off the desk lamp. Let scholars quarrel over what's finished. Out in the desert, ants still tunnel through quartz, rebuilding vaults too small for human eyes. The child's laughter fades first, leaving only the whisper of braided ropes and the weight of shadows too quiet to archive.